one of y'all. It's day 35 of now it's spring, so spring bulk at home workouts. If it's your first time here, welcome. In this series, we've been doing a bunch of at home workouts to transform my body. I'm not gonna waste too much time today. I'm gonna just get right into it. That's what we're doing right now. Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. And then I'm head upstairs, finish the rest. But without further ado, I'm gonna just get started.
The 5 laws of gold. If thou dost but interpret them in thy own acts, they shall bring thee competence and security. 10 years from this day, come thou back to the house of thy father and give account of thyself. If thou prove worthy, I will then make thee the heir to my estate. Otherwise, I will give it to the priests that they may barter for my soul the kind consideration of the gods. So Nomasir went forth to make his own way, taking his bag of gold, the clay tablet carefully wrapped in silken cloth, his slave, and the horses upon which they rode. The 10 years passed, and Nomasir, as he had agreed, returned to the house of his father, who provided a great feast in his honor, to which he invited many friends and relatives. After the feast was over, the father and mother mounted their throne-like seats at one side of the great hall, and Nomasir stood before them to give an account of himself as he had promised his father. It was evening. The room was hazy with smoke from the wicks of the oil lamps that but dimly lighted it. Slaves in white woven jackets and tunics fanned the humid air rhythmically with long-stemmed palm leaves. A stately dignity colored the scene. The wife of Nomasir and his 2 young sons, with friends and other members of the family, sat upon rugs behind him, eager listeners. "My father," he began deferentially, "I bow before thy wisdom. 10 years ago, when I stood at the gates of manhood, thou bade me go forth and become a man among men, instead of remaining a vassal to thy fortune. Thou gave me liberally of thy gold. Thou gave me liberally of thy wisdom. Of the gold, alas, I must admit of a disastrous hand. It fled indeed from my inexperienced hands, even as a wild hare flees at the first opportunity from the youth who captures it." The father smiled indulgently. "Continue, my son. Thy tale interests me in all its details." "I decided to go to Nineveh, as it was a growing city, believing that I might find there opportunities. I joined a caravan, and among its members made numerous friends. 2 well-spoken men who had a most beautiful white horse, as fleet as the wind, were among these. As we journeyed, they told me in confidence that in Nineveh was a wealthy man who owned a horse so swift that it had never been beaten. Its owner believed that no horse living could run with greater speed. Therefore, would he wager any sum, however large, that his horse could outspeed any horse in all Babylonia. Compared to their horse, so my friend said, it was but a lumbering ass that could be beaten with ease. They offered, as a great favor, to permit me to join them in a wager. I was quite carried away with the plan. Our horse was badly beaten, and I lost much of my gold." The father laughed. "Later, I discovered that this was a deceitful plan of these men, and they constantly journeyed with caravans seeking victims. You see, the man in Nineveh was their partner and shared with them the bets he won. This shrewd deceit taught me my first lesson in looking out for myself. I was soon to learn another, equally bitter. In the caravan was another young man with whom I became quite friendly. He was the son of wealthy parents and, like myself, journeying to Nineveh to find a suitable location. Not long after our arrival, he told me that a merchant had died, and his shop with its rich merchandise and patronage could be secured at a paltry price. Saying that we would be equal partners, but first he must return to Babylon to secure his gold, he prevailed upon me to purchase the stock with my gold, agreeing that his would be used later to carry on our venture. He long delayed the trip to Babylon, proving in the meantime to be an unwise buyer and a foolish spender. I finally put him out, but not before the business had deteriorated to where we had only unsaleable goods and no gold to buy other goods. I sacrificed what was left to an Israelite for a pitiful sum. Soon there followed, I tell you, bitter days. I sought employment and found it not, for I was without trade or training that would enable me to earn. I sold my horses, I sold my slave, I sold my extra robes that I might have food and a place to sleep, but each day grim want crouched closer. But in those bitter days, I remembered thy confidence in me, my father. Thou hadst sent me forth to become a man, and this I was determined to accomplish. The mother buried her face and wept softly. At this time, I bethought me of the table thou had given to me, upon which thou had carved the 5 laws of gold. Thereupon I read most carefully thy words of wisdom, and realized that had I but sought wisdom first, my gold would not have been lost to me. I learned by heart each law, and determined that when once more the goddess of good fortune smiled upon me, I would be guided by the wisdom of age, and not by the inexperience of youth. For the benefit of you who are seated here this night, I will read the wisdom of my father as engraved upon the clay tablet which he gave to me 10 years ago. The 5 laws of gold. 1. Gold cometh gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family. 2. Gold laboreth diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field. 3. Gold clingeth to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling. 4. Gold slippeth away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar, or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep. 5. Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment. These are the 5 laws of gold as written by my father. I do proclaim them as of greater value than gold itself, as I will show by the continuance of my tale. He again faced his father. I have told thee of the depth of poverty and despair to which my inexperience brought me. However, there is no chain of disasters that will not come to an end. Mine came when I secured employment managing a crew of slaves working upon the new outer wall of the city. Profiting from my knowledge of the first law of gold, I saved a copper from my first earnings, adding to it at every opportunity until I had a piece of silver. It was a slow procedure, for one must live. I did spend grudgingly, I admit, because I was determined to earn back before the 10 years were over as much gold as you, my father, had given to me. One day, the slave master with whom I had become quite friendly said to me, art a thrifty youth who spends not wantonly what he earns. Hast thou gold put by that is not thine? Yes, I replied. It is my greatest desire to accumulate gold, to replace that which my father gave to me and which I have lost. 'Tis a worthy ambition, I will grant. And do you know that the gold which you have saved can work for you and earn much more gold? Alas, my experience has been bitter, for my father's gold has fled from me, and I am in much fear lest my own do the same. If thou hast confidence in me, I will give thee a lesson in the profitable handling of gold, he replied. Within a year, the outer wall will be complete and ready for the great gates of bronze that will be built at each entrance to protect the city from the king's enemies. In all Nineveh, there is not enough metal to make these gates, and the king has not thought to provide it. Here is my plan. A group of us will pool our gold and send a caravan to the mines of copper and tin, which are distant, and bring to Nineveh the metal for the gates. When the king says, "Make the great gates," we alone can supply the metal, and a rich price he will pay. If the king will not buy from us, we will yet have the metal which can be sold for a fair price. In his offer, I recognized an opportunity to abide by the third law and invest my savings under the guidance of wise men. Nor was I disappointed. Our pool was a success, and my small store of gold was greatly increased by the transaction. In due time, I was accepted as a member of this same group in other ventures. They were men wise in the profitable handling of gold. They talked over each plan presented with great care before entering upon it. They would take no chance on losing their principal or tying it up in unprofitable investments from which their gold could not be recovered. Such foolish things as the horse race and the partnership into which I had entered with my inexperience would have had scant consideration with them. They would have immediately pointed out their weaknesses. Through my association with these men, I learned to safely invest gold to bring profitable returns. As the years went on, my treasure increased more and more rapidly. I not only made back as much as I lost, but much more. Through my misfortunes, my trials, and my success, I have tested time and again the wisdom of the 5 laws of gold, my father, and have proven them true in every test. To him who is without knowledge of the 5 laws, gold comes not often, and goeth away quickly. But to him who abide by the 5 laws, gold comes and works as his dutiful slave. Nomasir ceased speaking and motioned to a slave in the back of the room. The slave brought forward one at a time 3 heavy leather bags. One of these Nomasir took and placed upon the floor before his father, addressing him again. Thou didst give to me a bag of gold, Babylon gold. Behold, in its place, I do return to thee a bag of Nineveh gold of equal weight, an equal exchange, as all will agree. Thou didst give to me a clay tablet inscribed with wisdom. Behold, in its stead, I do return 2 bags of gold. So saying, he took from the slave the other 2 bags, and likewise placed them upon the floor before his father. This I do to prove to thee, my father, of how much greater value I consider thy wisdom than thy gold. Yet, who can measure in bags of gold the value of wisdom? Without wisdom, gold is quickly lost by those who have it. But with wisdom, gold can be secured by those who have it not, as these 3 bags of gold do prove. It does indeed give to me the deepest satisfaction, my father, to stand before thee and say that, because of thy wisdom, I have been able to become rich and respected before men. The father placed his hand fondly upon the head of Nomasir. Thou hast learned well thy lessons, and I am indeed fortunate to have a son to whom I may entrust my wealth. Caliban ceased his tale and looked critically at his listeners. What means this to thee, this tale of Nomasir? He continued. Who among thee can go to thy father or to the father of thy wife and give an account of wise handling of his earnings? What would these venerable men think were you to say, I have traveled much and learned much and labored much and earned much, yet alas, of gold I have little. Some I spent wisely, some I spent foolishly, and much I lost in unwise ways. Dost still think it but an inconsistency of fate that some men have much gold and others have not? Then you err. Men have much gold when they know the 5 laws of gold and abide thereby. Because I learned these 5 laws in my youth and abided by them, I have become a wealthy merchant. Not by some strange magic did I accumulate my wealth. Wealth that comes quickly goeth the same way. Wealth that stayeth to give enjoyment and satisfaction to its owner comes gradually, because it is a child born of knowledge and persistent purpose. To earn wealth is but a slight burden upon the thoughtful man. Bearing the burden consistently from year to year accomplishes the final purpose. The 5 laws of gold offer to thee a rich reward for their observance. Each of these 5 laws is rich with meaning, and lest thou overlook this in the briefness of my tale, I will now repeat them. I do know them each by heart, because in my youth I could see their value and would not be content until I knew them word for word. The first law of gold. Gold cometh gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family. Any man who will put by 1/10 of his earnings consistently and invest it wisely will surely create a valuable estate that will provide an income for him in the future and further guarantee safety for his family in case the gods call him to the world of darkness. This law always saith that gold cometh gladly to such a man. I can truly certify this in my own life. The more gold I accumulate, the more readily it comes to me, and in increased quantities. The gold which I save earns more, even as yours will, and its earnings earn more, and this is the working out of the first law. The second law of gold. Gold laboreth diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field. Gold indeed is a living water. It is ever eager to multiply when opportunity presents itself. To every man who hath a store of gold set by, opportunity comes for its most profitable use. As the years pass, it multiplies itself in surprising fashion. The third law of gold. Gold clingeth to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling. Gold indeed clingeth to the cautious owner, even as it flees the careless owner. The man who seeks the advice of men wise in handling gold soon learneth not to jeopardize his treasure, but to preserve in safety and to enjoy in contentment its consistent increase.
This ends Disc 2. The Richest Man in Babylon, Disc 3.
The fourth law of gold. Gold slippeth away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar, or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep. To the man who hath gold, yet is not skilled in its handling, many uses for it appear most profitable. Too often these are fraught with danger of loss, and if properly analyzed by wise men, show small possibility of profit. Therefore, the inexperienced owner of gold who trusts to his own judgment and invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar, too often finds his judgment imperfect and pays with his treasure for his inexperience. Wise indeed is he who investeth his treasures under the advice of men skilled in the ways of gold. The fifth law of gold. Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment. Fanciful propositions that thrill like adventures always come to the new owner of gold. These appear to endow his treasure with magic powers that will enable it to make impossible earnings. Yet heed ye the wise men, for verily they know the risks that lurk behind every plan to make great wealth suddenly. Forget not the rich men of Nineveh, who would take no chance of losing their principal or tying it up in unprofitable investments. This ends my tale of the 5 laws of gold. In telling it to thee, I have told the secrets of my own success. Yet they are not secrets, but truths which every man must first learn and then follow, who wishes to step out of the multitude that, like yon wild dogs, must worry each day for food to eat. Tomorrow we enter Babylon. Look, see the fire that burns eternal above the temple of Bel? We are already in sight of the golden city. Tomorrow each of thee shall have gold, the gold thou hast so well earned by thy faithful services. 10 years from this night, what can you tell about this gold? If there be men among you who, like Nomesir, will use a portion of their gold to start for themselves an estate and be thenceforth wisely guided by the wisdom of Arcad, 10 years from now, 'tis a safe wager, like the son of Arcad, they will be rich and respected among men. Our wise acts accompany us through life to please us and to help us, just as surely our unwise acts follow us to plague and torment us. Alas, they cannot be forgotten. In the front rank of the torments that do follow us are the memories of the things we should have done, of the opportunities which came to us and we took not. Rich are the treasures of Babylon, so rich no man can count their value in pieces of gold. Each year they grow richer and more valuable. Like the treasures of every land, they are a reward, a rich reward awaiting those men of purpose who determine to secure their just share. In the strength of thine own desires is a magic power. Guide this power with thy knowledge of the 5 laws of gold, and thou shalt share the treasures of Babylon. Chapter 6. The Gold Lender of Babylon. 50 pieces of gold. Never before had Rodan, the spearmaker of old Babylon, carried so much gold in his leather wallet. Happily down the king's highway from the palace of his most liberal majesty he strode. Cheerfully the gold clinked as the wallet at his belt swayed with each step, the sweetest music he had ever heard. 50 pieces of gold, all his. He could hardly realize his good fortune. What power in those clinking discs. They could purchase anything he wanted. A grand house, land, cattle, camels, horses, chariots, whatever he might desire. What use should he make of it? This evening, as he turned into a side street toward the home of his sister, he could think of nothing he would rather possess than those same glittering, heavy pieces of gold, his to keep. It was upon an evening some days later that a perplexed Rodin entered the shop of Mathon, the lender of gold and dealer in jewels and rare fabrics. Glancing neither to the right nor the left at the colorful articles artfully displayed, he passed through to the living quarters at the rear. Here he found the genteel Mathon lounging upon a rug partaking of a meal served by a black slave. "I would counsel with thee, for I know not what to do." Rodin stood stolidly, feet apart, hairy breast exposed by the gaping front of his leather jacket. Mathon's narrow, sallow face smiled a friendly greeting. "What indiscretions hast thou done that thou shouldst seek the lender of gold? Hast been unlucky at the gaming table? Or hath some plump dame entangled thee? For many years have I known thee, yet never hast thou sought me to aid thee in thy troubles. No, not such as that. I seek no gold. Instead, I crave thy wise advice. Hear, what this man doth say. No one comes to the lender of gold for advice. My ears must play me false. They listen true. Can this be so? Rodin, the spearmaker, doth display more cunning than all the rest, for he comes to Mathon not for gold, but for advice. Many men come to me for gold to pay for their follies, but as for advice, they want it not. Yet who is more able to advise than the lender of gold to whom many men come in trouble? Thou shalt eat with me, Rodin, he continued. Thou shalt be my guest for the evening. Ando, he commanded of the black slave. Draw up a rug for my friend Rodin, the spearmaker, who comes for advice. He shall be mine honored guest. Bring to him much food and get for him my largest cup. Choose well of the best wine that he may have satisfaction in the drinking. Now tell me, what troubles thee? It is the king's gift. The king's gift? The king did make thee a gift, and it gives thee trouble? What manner of gift? Because he was much pleased with the design I did submit to him for a new point on the spears of the royal guard, he did present me with 50 pieces of gold, and now I am much perplexed. I am beseeched each hour the sun doth travel across the sky by those who would share it with me. That is natural. More men want gold than have it, and would wish one who comes by it easily to divide. But can you not say no? Is thy will not as strong as thy fist? To many I can say no, yet sometimes it would be easier to say yes. Can one refuse to share with one's sister to whom he is deeply devoted? Surely thy own sister would not wish to deprive thee of enjoying thy reward. But it is for the sake of Araman, her husband, whom she wishes to see a rich merchant. She does feel that he has never had a chance, and she beseeches me to loan to him this gold, that he may become a prosperous merchant and repay me from his profits. My friend, resumed Mathon, 'tis a worthy subject thou bringest to discuss. Gold bringeth unto its possessor responsibility and a changed position with his fellow men. It bringeth fear lest he lose it, or it be tricked away from him. It bringeth a feeling of power and ability to do good. Likewise, it bringeth opportunities whereby his very good intentions may bring him into difficulties. Didst ever hear of the farmer of Nineveh who could understand the language of animals? I wot not, for 'tis not the kind of tale men like to tell over the bronze caster's forge. I will tell it to thee, for thou shouldst know that to borrowing and lending there is more than the passing of gold from the hands of one to the hands of another. This farmer, who could understand what the animals said to each other, did linger in the farmyard each evening just to listen to their words. One evening he did hear the ox bemoaning to the ass the hardness of his lot. I do labor pulling the plow from morning until night, no matter how hot the day, or how tired my legs, or how the bow doth chafe my neck, still must I work. But you are a creature of leisure. You are trapped with a colorful blanket and do nothing more than carry our master about where he wishes to go. When he goes nowhere, you do rest and eat the green grass all the day. Now the ass, in spite of his vicious heels, was a goodly fellow and sympathized with the ox. My good friend, he replied, you do work very hard, and I would help ease your lot. Therefore, will I tell you how you may have a day of rest. In the morning, when the slave comes to fetch you to the plow, lie upon the ground and bellow much, that he may say you are sick and cannot work. So the ox took the advice of the ass, and the next morning the slave returned to the farmer and told him the ox was sick and could not pull the plow. Then, said the farmer, hitch the ass to the plow, for the plowing must go on. All that day, the ass, who had only intended to help his friend, found himself compelled to do the ox's task. When night came and he was released from the plow, his heart was bitter, and his legs were weary, and his neck was sore where the bow had chafed it. The farmer lingered in the barnyard to listen. The ox began first. You are my good friend. Because of your wise advice, I have enjoyed a day of rest. And I, retorted the ass, am like many another simple-hearted one who starts to help a friend and ends up by doing his task for him. Hereafter you draw your own plow, for I did hear the master tell the slave to send for the butcher were you sick again. I wish he would, for you are a lazy fellow. Thereafter they spoke to each other no more. This ended their friendship. Canst thou tell the moral to this tale, Rodan? 'Tis a good tale, responded Rodan, but I see not the moral. I thought not that you would, but it is there, and simple too. Just this: if you desire to help thy friend, do so in a way that will not bring thy friend's burdens upon thyself. I had not thought of that. It is a wise moral. I wish not to assume the burdens of my sister's husband. But tell me, you lend to many. Do not the borrowers repay? Mathon smiled the smile of one whose soul is rich with much experience. Could a loan be well made if the borrower cannot repay? Must not the lender be wise and judge carefully whether his gold can perform a useful purpose to the borrower and return to him once more? Or whether it will be wasted by one unable to use it wisely and leave him without his treasure and leave the borrower with a debt he cannot repay? I will show to thee the tokens in my token chest, and let them tell thee some of their stories. Into the room he brought a chest as long as his arm, covered with red pigskin and ornamented with bronze designs. He placed it upon the floor and squatted before him with both hands upon the lid. From each person to whom I lend, I do exact a token for my token chest, to remain there until the loan is repaid. When they repay, I give it back. But if they never repay, it will always remind me of one who was not faithful to my confidence. The safest loans, my token box tells me, are to those whose possessions are of more value than the one they desire. They own lands or jewels or camels or other things which could be sold to repay the loan. Some of the tokens given to me are jewels of more value than the loan. Others are promises that if the loan be not repaid as agreed, they will deliver to me certain property settlement. On loans like those, I am assured that my gold will be returned with the rental thereon, for the loan is based on property. In another class are those who have the capacity to earn. They are such as you, who labor or serve and are paid. They have income. And if they are honest and suffer no misfortune, I know that they also can repay the gold I loan them and the rental to which I am entitled. Such loans are based on human effort. Others are those who have neither property nor assured earning capacity. Life is hard, and there will always be some who cannot adjust themselves to it. Alas for the loans I make them, even though they be no larger than a pence. My token box make...
That's it. I ain't. We'll get some water, and we're gonna go upstairs. Be right back, yo.
censure me in the years to come unless they be guaranteed by good friends of the borrower who know him honorable. Mathon released the clasp and opened the lid. Rodan leaned forward eagerly. At the top of the chest, a bronze neckpiece lay upon a scarlet cloth. Mathon picked up the piece and patted it affectionately. This shall always remain in my token chest, because the owner has passed on into the great darkness. I treasure it, his token, and I treasure his memory, for he was my good friend. We traded together with much success until out of the East he brought a woman to wed, beautiful, but not like our women, a dazzling creature. He spent his gold lavishly to gratify her desires. He came to me in distress when his gold was gone. I counseled with him. I told him I would help him to once more master his own affairs. He swore by the sign of the great bull that he would. But it was not to be. In a quarrel, she thrust a knife into the heart he dared her to pierce. And she? Questioned Rodan. Yes, of course, this was hers. He picked up the scarlet cloth. In bitter remorse, she threw herself into the Euphrates. These two loans will never be repaid. The chest tells you, Rodan, that humans in the throes of great emotions are not safe risks for the gold lender. Here, now, this is different. He reached for a ring carved of ox bone. This belongs to a farmer. I buy the rugs of his women. The locusts came and they had not food. I helped him, and when the new crop came, he repaid me. Later he came again and told of strange goats in a distant land as described by a traveler. They had long hair so fine and soft it would weave into rugs more beautiful than any ever seen in Babylon. He wanted a herd, but he had no money. So I did lend him gold to make the journey and bring back goats.
I don't know what it is about public
Now
shows,
his
but it's
herd-
like after doing 100 of them shits, my head be feeling crazy. So we're gonna go upstairs and continue, but damn. I don't know what that shit do to my head, yo. We should be able to fly through the rest. Everything else is kind of muscle memory at this point. So, yeah, going upstairs now.
Herd is begun, and next year I shall surprise the lords of Babylon with the most expensive rugs it has been their good fortune to buy. Soon I must return his ring. He doth insist on repaying promptly. Some borrowers do that, queried Rodan. If they borrow for purposes that bring money back to them, I find it so. But if they borrow because of their indiscretions, I warn thee to be cautious if thou wouldst ever have thy gold back in hand again. Tell me about this, requested Rodan, picking up a heavy gold bracelet inset with jewels in rare designs. The women do appeal to my good friend, bantered Nathan. I am still much younger than you, retorted Rodan. I grant that, but this time thou doth suspicion romance where it is not. The owner of this is fat and wrinkled, and doth talk so much and say so little, she drives me mad. Once they had much money and were good customers, but ill times came upon them. She has a son of whom she would make a merchant. So she came to me and borrowed gold that he might become a partner of a caravan owner who travels with his camels, bartering in one city what he buys in another. This man proved a rascal, for he left the poor boy in a distant city without money and without friends, pulling out early while the youth slept. Perhaps when this youth has grown to manhood, he will repay. Until then, I get no rental for the loan, only much talk. But I do admit the jewels are worthy of the loan. Did this lady ask my advice as to the wisdom of the loan? Quite otherwise. She had pictured to herself this son of hers as a wealthy and powerful man of Babylon. To suggest the contrary was to infuriate her. A fair rebuke I had. I knew the risk for this inexperienced boy, but as she offered security, I could not refuse her. This, continued Maythorn, waving a bit of pack rope tied into a knot, belongs to Nebator, the camel trader. When he would buy a herd larger than his funds, he brings to me this knot, and I lend to him according to his needs. He is a wise trader. I have confidence in his good judgment and can lend him freely. Many other merchants of Babylon have my confidence because of their honorable behavior. Their tokens come and go frequently in my token box. Good merchants are an asset to our city, and it profits me to aid them to keep trade moving that Babylon be prosperous. Maython picked out a beetle carved in turquoise and tossed it contemptuously on the floor. A bug from Egypt. The lad who owns this does not care whether I ever receive back my gold. When I reproach him, he replies, how can I repay when ill fate pursues me? You have plenty more. What can I do? The token is his father's. A worthy man of small means who did pledge his land and herd to back his son's enterprises. The youth found success at first, and then was overzealous to gain great wealth. His knowledge was immature. His enterprises collapsed. Youth is ambitious. Youth would take shortcuts to wealth and the desirable things for which it stands. To secure wealth quickly, youth often borrows unwisely. Youth, never having had experience, cannot realize that hopeless debt is like a deep pit into which one may descend quickly and where one may struggle vainly for many days. It is a pit of sorrow and regrets where the brightness of the sun is overcast and night is made unhappy by restless sleeping. Yet I do not discourage borrowing gold. I encourage it. I recommend it if it be for a wise purpose. I myself made my first real success as a merchant with borrowed gold. Yet what should the lender do in such a case? The youth is in despair and accomplishes nothing. He is discouraged. He makes no effort to repay. My heart turns against depriving the father of his land and cattle. You tell me much that I am interested to hear, ventured Rodan, but I hear no answer to my question. Should I lend my 50 pieces of gold to my sister's husband? They mean much to me. Thy sister is a sterling woman whom I do much esteem. Should her husband come to me and ask to borrow 50 pieces of gold, I should ask him for what purpose he would use it. If he answered that he desired to become a merchant like myself and deal in jewels and rich furnishings, I would say, what knowledge have you of the ways of trade? Do you know where you can buy at lowest cost? Do you know where you can sell at a fair price? Could he say yes to these questions? No, he could not, Rodan admitted. He has helped me much in making spears, and he has helped some in the shops. Then would I say to him that his purpose was not wise. Merchants must learn their trade. His ambition, though worthy, is not practical, and I would not lend him any gold. But supposing he could say, yes, I have helped merchants much. I know how to travel to Smyrna and to buy at low cost the rugs the housewives weave. I also know many of the rich people of Babylon to whom I can sell these at a large profit. Then I would say, your purpose is wise and your ambition honorable. I shall be glad to lend you the 50 pieces of gold if you can give me security that they will be returned. But would he say, I have no security other than that I am an honored man and will pay you well for the loan? Then would I reply, I treasure much each piece of gold. Were the robbers to take it from you as you journey to Smyrna, or take the rugs from you as you return, then you would have no means of repaying me, and my gold would be gone. Gold, you see, Rodan, is the merchandise of the lender of money. It is easy to lend. If it is lent unwisely, then it is difficult to get back. The wise lender wishes not the risk of the undertaking, but the guarantee of safe repayment. 'Tis well, he continued, to assist those that are in trouble. 'Tis well to help those upon whom fate has laid a heavy hand. 'Tis well to help those who are starting, that they may progress and become valuable citizens. But help must be given wisely, lest, like the farmer's ass, in our desire to help, we but take upon ourselves the burden that belongs to another. Again, I wandered from thy question, Rodan, but hear my answer. Keep thy 50 pieces of gold. What thy labor earns for thee and what is given thee for reward is thine own, and no man can put an obligation upon thee to part with it unless it do be thy wish. If thee wouldst lend it so that it may earn thee more gold, then lend with caution and in many places. I like not idle gold, even less I like too much of risk. How many years hast thou labored as a spear maker? Fully 3. How much besides the king's gift hast saved? 3 gold pieces. Each year that thou hast labored, thou hast denied thyself good things to save from thine earnings 1 piece of gold. 'Tis as you say. Then mightest save in 50 years of labor 50 pieces of gold by thy self-denial? A lifetime of labor it would be. Thinkest thou thy sister would wish to jeopardize the savings of 50 years of labor over the bronze melting pot, that her husband might experiment on being a merchant? Not if I spoke in your words. Then go to her and say, 3 years I have labored each day except fast days, from morning until night, and I have denied myself many things that my heart craved. For each year of labor and self-denial, I have to show 1 piece of gold. Thou art my favored sister, and I wish that thy husband may engage in business in which he will prosper greatly. If he will submit to me a plan that seems wise and possible to my friend Mathon, then will I gladly lend to him my savings of an entire year, that he may have an opportunity to prove that he can succeed. Do that, I say, and if he has within him the soul to succeed, he can prove it. If he fails, he will not owe thee more than he can hope some day to repay. I am a gold lender because I own more gold than I can use in my own trade. I desire my surplus gold to labor for others and thereby earn more gold. I do not wish to take risk of losing my gold, for I have labored much and denied myself much to secure it. Therefore, I will no longer lend any of it where I am not confident that it is safe and will be returned to me. Neither will I lend it where I am not convinced that its earnings will be promptly paid to me. I have told to thee, Rodan, a few of the secrets of my token chest. From them you may understand the weakness of men and their eagerness to borrow that which they have no certain means to repay. From this you can see how often their high hopes of the great earnings they could make if they but had gold are but false hopes they have not the ability or training to fulfill. Thou, Rodan, now have gold which thou shouldst put to earning more gold for thee. Thou art about to become, even as I, a gold lender. If thou dost safely preserve thy treasure, it will produce liberal earnings for thee, and be a rich source of pleasure and profit during all thy days. But if thou dost let it escape from thee...
I'm just going at my own pace, y'all. Like I said, the pull-ups be getting my head feeling like walk, so I'm not trying to pass out or feel like I got to open nothing, so I'm about to start in like 5-ish minutes, maybe less. Hope you're enjoying this book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. I've got the hard copy downstairs, but yeah, I just like listening to the audiobook while I work out. I usually listen to audiobooks, podcasts, music. The music has been getting copyrighted on my YouTube, so that's why I started today with a podcast. But yeah, y'all, I'm gonna be with you in just a couple minutes.
It will be a source of constant sorrow and regret as long as thy memory doth last. What desirest thou most of this gold in thy wallet? To keep it safe. Wisely spoken, replied Mathon approvingly. Thy first desire is for safety. Thinkest thou that in the custody of thy sister's husband it would be truly safe from possible loss? I fear not, for he is not wise in guarding gold. Then be not swayed by foolish sentiments of obligation to trust thy treasure to any person. If thou wouldst help thy family or thy friends, find other ways than risking the loss of thy treasure. Forget not that gold slippeth away in unexpected ways from those unskilled in guarding it. As well waste thy treasure in extravagance as let others lose it for thee. What next after safety dost desire of this treasure of thine? That it earn more gold. Again thou speakest with wisdom. It should be made to earn and grow larger. Gold wisely lent may even double itself with its earnings before a man like you groweth old. If you risk losing it, you risk losing all that it would earn as well. Therefore, be not swayed by the fantastic plans of impractical men who think they see ways to force thy gold to make earnings unusually large. Such plans are the creations of dreamers unskilled in the safe and dependable laws of trade. Be conservative in what thou expectest to earn, that thou mayest keep and enjoy thy treasure. To hire it out with a promise of usurious returns is to invite loss. Seek to associate thyself with men and enterprises whose success is established, that thy treasure may earn liberally under their skillful use and be guarded safely by their wisdom and experience. Thus mayest thou avoid the misfortunes that follow most of the sons of men to whom the gods see fit to entrust gold. When Rodin would thank him for his wise advice, he would not listen, saying, "The king's gift shall teach thee much wisdom. If wouldst keep thy 50 pieces of gold, thou must be discreet indeed. Many uses will tempt thee. Much advice will be spoken to thee. Numerous opportunities to make large profits will be offered thee. The stories from my token box should warn thee before thou let any piece of gold leave thy pouch to be sure that thou hast a safe way to pull it back again. Should my further advice appeal to thee, return again. It is gladly given. Ere thou goest, read this which I have carved beneath the lid of my token box. It applies equally to the borrower and the lender. Better a little caution than a great regret." Chapter 7. The Walls of Babylon. Old Banzar, grim warrior of another day, stood guard at the passageway leading to the top of the ancient walls of Babylon. Up above, valiant defenders were battling to hold the walls. Upon them depended the future existence of this great city with its hundreds of thousands of citizens. Over the walls came the roar of the attacking armies, the yelling of many men, the trampling of thousands of horses, the deafening boom of the battering rams pounding the bronze gates. In the street behind the gate lounged the spearmen, waiting to defend the entrance should the gates give way. They were but few for the task. The main armies of Babylon were with their king, far away in the east on a great expedition against the Elamites. No attack upon the city having been anticipated during their absence, the defending forces were small. Unexpectedly from the north bore down the mighty armies of the Assyrians, and now the walls must hold or Babylon was doomed. About Banzar were great crowds of citizens, white-faced and terrified, eagerly seeking news of the battle. With hushed awe, they viewed the stream of wounded and dead being carried or led out of the passageway. Here was the crucial point of attack. After 3 days of circling about the city, the enemy had suddenly thrown his great strength against this section and this gate. The defenders from the top of the wall fought off the climbing platforms and the scaling ladders of the attackers with arrows, burning oil, and, if any reached the top, spears. Against the defenders, thousands of the enemy's archers poured a deadly barrage of arrows.
Welcome to Six Pack Promise. Today's workout will require the following pieces of equipment. A physio ball. Physio ball knee tucks for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Tell me, he pleaded. They cannot get in. My sons are with the good king. There is no one to protect my old wife. My goods, they will steal all. My food, they will leave nothing. We are old, too old to defend ourselves, too old for slaves.
10 seconds left.
We shall die. Tell me they cannot get in. Calm thyself, good merchant, the guard responded.
Physio ball around the world for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All of your possessions as safely as they protect the rich treasures of the king. Keep close to the walls, lest the arrows flying over strike you. A woman with a babe in arms took the old man's place as he withdrew. Sergeant, what news from the top? Tell me truly that I may reassure my poor husband. He lies with
10 seconds left.
yet insists upon his honor and his spear to protect me who am with child. Terrible, he says, will be the vengeful lust of our enemies.
Physio ball marching flanks for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The walls of Babylon will protect you and your babes. They are high and strong. Hear ye not the yells of our valiant defenders as they empty the cauldrons of burning oil upon the ladder scalers? Yes, that do I hear, and also the roar of the battering rams that do hammer at our gates. Back to thy hut.
10 seconds left.
The gates are strong and withstand the rams. Also that the scalers climb the walls, but to receive the waiting spear thrust.
30 seconds rest.
On buildings. Banzar stepped aside to clear the passage for heavily armed reinforcements, as with clanking bronze shields and heavy tread they tramped by, a small girl plucked at his girdle. Tell me, soldier, are we safe? She pleaded. I hear the awful noises.
10 seconds left.
I am so frightened. What will become of our family, of my mother, little brother, and the baby? The grim old
Physio ball skier crunch for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
short. The walls of Babylon will protect you and mother and little brother and the baby. It was for the safety of such as you that the good Queen Semiramis built them over 100 years ago. Never have they been broken through. Go back and tell your mother and little brother and the baby that the walls of Babylon will protect them.
10 seconds left.
Day after day, old Banzar stood at his post and watched the reinforcements file up the passage.
Physio ball wall plant crunches for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Throngs of frightened citizens eagerly seeking to learn if the walls would hold. To all he gave his answer with the fine dignity of an old soldier. The walls of Babylon will protect you. For 3 weeks and 5 days the attack waged with scarcely ceasing violence. Harder and grimmer set the jaw of Banzar as the
10 seconds left.
the blood of the many wounded was churned into mud by the never-ceasing streams of men passing up and staggering down. Each struck with a slow
Physio ball stirs for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Upon the 5th night of the 4th week, the clamor without diminished. The first streaks of daylight illuminated the plains, disclosed great clouds of dust raised by the retreating armies. A mighty shout went up from the defenders. There was no mistaking its meaning. It was repeated by the waiting troops behind the walls. It was echoed by the citizens upon the streets. It swept over the city with the violence of a storm. People rushed from the houses. The streets were jammed with a
30 seconds left.
fear of weeks found an outlet in the wild chorus of joy. From the top of the high tower of the Temple of Bel burst forth the flames of victory. Skyward floated the column of blue smoke to carry the message far and wide. The walls of Babylon had once again repulsed a mighty and vicious foe.
10 seconds left.
borders and to ravish and enslave her citizens. Babylon endured century after century because of
Change direction in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
the walls of Babylon were an outstanding example of man's need and desire for protection. This desire is inherent in the human race. It is just as strong today as it ever was, but we have developed broader and better plans to accomplish the same purpose. In this day, behind the impregnable walls of insurance, savings accounts, and dependable investments, we can guard ourselves against the unexpected tragedies that may enter any door and seat themselves before any fireside.
30 seconds left.
We cannot afford to be without adequate protection. Chapter 8. The Camel Trader of Babylon. The hungrier one becomes, the clearer one's mind works. Also, the more sensitive
10 seconds left.
to the odors of food. Tarkad, the son of Azure, certainly thought so. For 2 whole days he had tasted no
Congratulations, you've completed today's workout.
from over the wall of a garden. Not another could he grab before the angry woman rushed forth and chased him down the street. Her shrill cries were still ringing in his ears as he walked through the marketplace. They helped him to restrain his restless fingers from snatching.
Welcome to Six Pack Promise. Today's workout will require the following pieces of equipment. A physio ball. Physio ball knee tucks for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In front of the eating house. Perhaps here he might meet someone he knew, someone from whom he could borrow a copper that would gain him a smile from the unfriendly keeper of the inn, and with it, a little of helping. Without the copper, he knew all too well how unwelcome he would be. In his abstraction, he unexpectedly found himself
10 seconds left.
he wished most to avoid, the tall, bony figure of Davasir, the camel trader. Of all the friends and others,
Physio ball around the world for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Davasir's face lighted up at the sight of him. Ha! 'Tis Tarkad, just the one I have been seeking, that he might repay the 2 pieces of copper which I lent him a moon ago. Also the piece of silver which I lent to him before that. We are well met. I can make good use of the coins this very day.
10 seconds left.
What say? Tarkad stuttered and his face flushed. He had naught in his empty stomach to nerve him to argue with the outspoken.
Physio ball alternating toe touch for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Neither the copper nor the silver with which I
Physio ball alternating toe touch for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
a piece of silver to repay the generosity of an old friend of thy father, who aided thee whence thou wast in need. 'Tis because ill fortune does pursue me that I cannot pay. Ill fortune, wouldst blame the gods for thine own weakness? Ill fortune pursues every man who thinks more of borrowing than of...
10 seconds left.
Come with me, boy, while I eat. I'm hungry, and I would tell thee a tale. Tarkad flinched from the brutal friend.
Physio ball skier crunch for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Pushed him to a far corner of the room where they seated themselves upon small rugs. When Koskor, the proprietor, appeared smiling, Davasir addressed him with his usual freedom. Fat lizard of the desert, bring to me a leg of the goat, very brown with much juice, and bread and all of the vegetables, for I am hungry and want.
10 seconds left.
Do not forget my friend here. Bring to him a jug of water. Have it cooled, for the day is hot.
30 seconds rest.
Must he sit here and drink water while he watched this man devour an entire goat leg? He said nothing. He thought of nothing he could say. Davasir, however, knew no such thing as silence. Smiling and waving his hand good-naturedly to the other customers, all of whom knew him, he continued.
10 seconds left.
Hear from a traveler just returned from Urfa of a certain rich man who has a piece of stone cut so thin that one can look through.
Physio ball wall plant crunches for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And he was permitted to look through it, and all the outside world looked strange and not like it really is. What say you to that, Tarkan? Thinkest all the world could look to a man a different color from what it is? I dare say, responded the youth, much more interested in the fat leg of goat placed before them.
Physio ball wall plant crunches for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It really is, and the tale I am about to tell relates how I came to see it in its right color once more. Davasir will tell a tale, whispered a neighboring diner to his neighbor and dragged his rug close. Other diners brought their food and crowded in a semicircle. They crunched noisily in the ears of Tarkat and brushed him with their meaty bones. He alone was without food. Davasir did not offer to share with him, nor even motion him to a small
30 seconds left.
that was broken off and had fallen from the platter to the floor. The tale that I am about to tell, began Davasir, pausing to bite a goodly chunk from the goat leg, relates to my early life and how I came to be a camel trader. Didst anyone know that I
10 seconds left.
enslaved in Syria? A murmur of surprise ran through the audience, to which Davasir listened with satisfaction.
Physio ball stirs for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I learned the trade of my father, the making of saddles. I worked with him in his shop and took to myself a wife. Being young and not greatly skilled, I could earn but little, just enough to support my excellent wife in a modest way. I craved good things which I could not afford.
10 seconds left.
Shopkeepers would trust me to pay later, even though I could not pay at the time. Being young and without experience, I did not know that he
Change directions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
the whirlwinds of trouble and humiliation. So I indulged my whims for fine raiment and bought luxuries for my good wife and our home beyond our means. I paid as I could, and for a while all went well. But in time I discovered I could not use my earnings both to live upon and
10 seconds left.
creditors began to pursue me to pay for my extravagant purchases, and my life became miserable. I borrowed from my
Congratulations, you've completed today's workout.
things went from bad to worse. My wife returned to her father, and I decided to leave Babylon and seek another city where a young man might have better chances. For 2 years, I had a restless and unsuccessful life working for caravan traders. From this, I fell in with a set of likable robbers who scoured the desert for unarmed caravans. Such deeds were unworthy of the son of my father, but I was seeing the world through a colored stone and did not realize to what degradation I had fallen. We met with success on our first trip, capturing a rich haul of gold and silks and valuable merchandise. This loot we took to Ganir and squandered. The second time, we were not so fortunate. Just after we had made our capture, we were attacked by the spearsmen of a native chief to whom the caravans paid for protection. Our 2 leaders were killed, and the rest of us were taken to Damascus, where we were stripped of our...
Welcome to Six Pack Promise. Today's workout will require the following pieces of equipment. No equipment required for this workout. Figure eights for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Being a reckless youth, I thought it merely an adventure until my master took me before his 4 wives and told them they could have me for a eunuch. Then indeed did I realize the hopelessness of my situation. These men of the desert were fierce and warlike. I was subject to their will without weapons or means of escape. Fearful I stood as those 4 women looked me over. I wondered if I could expect pity from them. Sierra,
30 seconds left.
was older than the others. Her face was impassive as she looked upon me. I turned from her with little consolation. The next was a contemptuous beauty who gazed at me as indifferently as if I had been a worm of the earth. The 2 younger ones tittered as though it were all an exciting joke.
10 seconds left.
An age that I stood waiting sentence. Each woman appeared willing for the others to decide. Finally, Sierra spoke up in a cold voice.
Crosshop planks for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And they are a worthless lot. Even this day I would visit my mother who was sick with the fever, and there is no slave I would trust to lead my camel. Ask this slave if he can lead a camel. My master thereupon questioned me, "What know you of camels?" Striving to conceal my eagerness, I replied,
10 seconds left.
"Kneel, I can load them, I can lead them on long trips without tiring. If need be, I can repair their trappings." The slaves speak
21 crunch for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So I was turned over to Sierra, and that day I led her camel upon a long journey to her sick mother. I took the occasion to thank her for her intercession, and also to tell her that I was not a slave by birth, but the son of a freeman, an honorable saddlemaker of Babylon. I also told her much of my story. Her comments were disconcerting to me, and I pondered much afterward on what she said. How can you call yourself a free man?
30 seconds left.
This has brought you to this. If a man has in himself the soul of a slave, will he not become one, no matter what his birth, even as water seeks its level? If a man has within him the soul of a free man, will he not become respected and honored in his own city in spite of his misfortune?
10 seconds left.
For over a year I was a slave and lived with the slaves, but I could not become as one of them. One day Sierra asked me,
30 seconds rest.
"When the other slaves can mingle and enjoy the society of each other, why dost thou sit in thy tent alone?" To which I responded, "I am pondering what you have said to me. I wonder if I have the soul of a slave. I cannot join them, so I must sit apart. I too must sit.
10 seconds left.
My dowry was large, and my lord married me because of it. Yet he does not desire me. But every woman wants
Crunch and twist for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Must I sit apart? Were I a man, I would rather die than be such a slave, but the conventions of our tribe make slaves of women. What think thou of me by this time? I asked her suddenly. Have I the soul of a man, or have I the soul of a slave? Have you a desire to repay the just debts you owe in Babylon? She parried. Yes, I have the desire, but I see no way. If thou contentedly let the years slip,
30 seconds
no
left.
effort to repay, then thou hast but the contemptible soul of a slave. No man is otherwise who cannot respect himself, and no man can respect himself who does not repay honest debts. But what can I do who am a slave in Syria? Stay a slave in Syria, thou.
10 seconds left.
I am not a weakling, I denied hotly. Then prove it. How? Does not thy great king
90-90 crunch for 60 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They ran thee out of Babylon. You left them alone, and they grew too strong for thee. Hadst fought them as a man, thou couldst have conquered them and been one honored among the townspeople. But thou had not the soul to fight them, and behold, thy pride hast gone down until thou art a slave in Syria. Much I thought over her unkind accusations, and many defensive phrases I worded to prove myself not a slave at heart. But I
30
had not
seconds
the
left.
chance to use them. 3 days later, the maid of Sirah took me to her mistress. My mother is again very sick, she said. Saddle the 2 best camels in my husband's herd. Tie on waterskins and saddlebags for a long journey. The maid will give thee food at the kitchen tent.
10 seconds left.
The camels, wondering much at the quantity of provisions the maid provided, for the mother dwelt less than a day's journey away. The maid rode the
Sprinter tuck planks for 30 seconds. Begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Sirah dismissed the maid and said to me, Dabasir, hast thou the soul of a free man or the soul of a slave? The soul of a free man, I insisted. Now is thy chance to prove it. Thy master hath imbibed deeply, and his chiefs are in a stupor.
10 seconds left.
Make thy escape. Here in this bag is raiment of thy master's to disguise thee. I will say thou stole the camels and ran away while I visited.
Congratulations, you've completed today's workout.
Thou hast the soul of a queen, I told her. Much do I wish that I might lead thee to happiness. Happiness, she responded, awaits not the runaway wife who seeks it in far lands among strange people.
Yeah, man, that was a
Go
lot of
thy
fun
own
workout.
way, and may the gods of the desert protect thee, for the way is far and barren of food or water.
Let's go.
I needed no further urging,
Yeah.
but thanked her warmly and was away into the night. I knew not this strange country, and had only a dim idea of the direction in which lay Babylon, but struck out bravely across the desert toward the hills. One camel I rode, and the other I led. All that night I traveled, and all the next day, urged on by the knowledge of the terrible fate that was meted out to slaves who stole their master's property and tried to escape. Late that afternoon, I reached a rough country as uninhabitable as the desert. The sharp rocks bruised the feet of my faithful camels, and soon they were picking their way slowly and painfully along. I met neither man nor beast, and could well understand why they shunned this inhospitable land. It was such a journey from then on as few men lived to tell of. Day after day we plodded along. Food and water gave out. The heat of the sun was merciless. At the end of the 9th day, I slid from the back of my mount with the feeling that I was too weak to ever remount, and I would surely die, lost in this abandoned country.
There you go.
I stretched out upon the ground and slept, not waking until the first gleam of daylight. I sat up and looked about me. There was a coolness in the morning air. My camels lay dejected not far away. About me was a vast waste of broken country covered with rock and sand and thorny things. No sign of water, not to eat for man or camel. Could it be that in this peaceful quiet I faced my end? My mind was clearer than it had ever been before. My body now seemed of little importance. My parched and bleeding lips, my dry and swollen tongue, my empty stomach, all had lost their supreme agonies of the day before. I looked across into the uninviting distance, and once again came to me the question, have I the soul of a slave or the soul of a free man? Then with clearness I realized that if I had the soul of a slave, I should give up, lie down in the desert and die, a fitting end for a runaway slave. But if I had the soul of a free man, what then? Surely I would force my way back to Babylon, repay the people who had trusted me, bring happiness to my wife who truly loved me, and bring peace and contentment to my parents. Thy debts are thine enemies who have run thee out of Babylon, Sirah had said. Yes, it was so. Why had I refused to stand my ground like a man? Why had I permitted my wife to go back to her father? Then a strange thing happened. All the world seemed to be of a different color, as though I had been looking at it through a colored stone which had suddenly been removed. At last I saw the true values in life. Die in the desert, not I. With a new vision, I saw the things that I must do. First, I would go back to Babylon and face every man to whom I owed an unpaid debt. I should tell them that after years of wandering and misfortune, I had come back to pay my debts as fast as the gods would permit.
Amen.
Next, I should make a home for my wife and become a citizen of whom my parents should be proud. My debts were my enemies, but the men I owed were my friends, for they had trusted me and believed in me. I staggered weakly to my feet. What mattered hunger? What mattered thirst? They were but incidents on the road to Babylon. Within me surged the soul of a free man going back to conquer his enemies and reward his friends.
Amen.
I thrilled with the great resolve. The glazed eyes of my camels brightened at the new note in my husky voice. With great effort, after many attempts, they gained their feet. With pitiful perseverance, they pushed on toward the north, where something within me said we would find Babylon. We found water. We passed into a more fertile country where were grass and fruit. We found the trail to Babylon because the soul of a free man looks at life as a series of problems to be solved and solves them, while the soul of a slave whines, "What can I do who am but a slave?" How about thee, Tarkad? Does thy empty stomach make thy head exceedingly clear? Art ready to take the road that leads back to self-respect? Canst thou see the world in its true color? Hast thou the desire to pay thy honest debts, however many they may be, and once again be a man respected in Babylon? Moisture came to the eyes of the youth. He rose eagerly to his knees. Thou hast shown me a vision. Already I feel the soul of a free man surge within me. But how fared you upon your return? Questioned an interested listener. Where the determination is, the way can be found, Davasir replied. I now had the determination, so I set out to find a way. First I visited every man to whom I was indebted and begged his indulgence until I could earn that with which to repay. Most of them met me gladly. Several reviled me, but others offered to help me. One indeed did give me the very help I needed. It was Mathon, the gold lender. Learning that I had been a camel tender in Syria, he sent me to old Nebator, the camel trader, just commissioned by our good king to purchase many herds of sound camels for the great expedition. With him, my knowledge of camels I put to good use. Gradually, I was able to repay every copper and every piece of silver. Then at last I could hold up my head and feel that I was an honorable man among men. Again, Davasir turned to his food. Kaskor, thou snail, he called loudly to be heard in the kitchen. The food is cold. Bring me more meat fresh from the roasting. Bring thou also a very large portion for Tarkad, the son of my old friend, who is hungry and shall eat with me. So ended the tale of Davasir, the camel trader of old Babylon. He found his own soul when he realized a great truth. a truth that had been known and used by wise men long before his time. It has led men of all ages out of difficulties and into success, and it will continue to do so for those who have the wisdom to understand its magic power. It is for any man to use who reads these lines. Where the determination is, the way can be found. Chapter 9. The Clay Tablets from Babylon. St. Swithin's College, Nottingham University, Newark-on-Trent, Nottingham. October 21st, 1934. Professor Franklin Caldwell, care of British Scientific Expedition, Hilla, Mesopotamia. My dear Professor, the 5 clay tablets from your recent excavation in the ruins of Babylon arrived on the same boat with your letter. I have been fascinated no end and have spent many pleasant hours translating their inscriptions. I should have answered your letter at once, but delayed until I could complete the translations which are attached. The tablets arrived without damage thanks to your careful use of preservatives and excellent packing. You will be as astonished as we in the laboratory at the story they relate. One expects the dim and distant past to speak of romance and adventure. Arabian Nights sort of things, you know. When instead it discloses the problem of a person named Dadasir to pay off his debts, one realizes that conditions upon this old world have not changed as much in 5,000 years as one might expect. It's odd, you know, but these old inscriptions rather rag me, as the students say. Being a college professor, I am supposed to be a thinking human being possessing a working knowledge of most subjects. Yet here comes this old chap out of the dust-covered ruins of Babylon to offer a way I had never heard of to pay off my debts and at the same time acquire gold to jingle in my wallet. Pleasant thought, I say, and interesting to prove whether it will work as well nowadays as it did in old Babylon. Mrs. Shrewsbury and myself are planning to try out his plan upon our own.
Moving along, guys. Moving along.
Hi, I'm Dr. Adam Fields. You've rolled out your iliotibial bands, and now we're going to do some strengthening. Let's go ahead and bring your foam roller under your knees, feet about hip distance apart. I want you to straighten your right leg as hard as you can. Just straighten it, straighten it, straighten it. Toes back towards you. We're going to hold this for 30 seconds as hard as you possibly can. Now, I want you to push your leg down a little bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Adam Fields. You've rolled out your iliotibial bands, and now we're going to do some strengthening. Let's go ahead and bring your foam roller under your knees, feet about hip distance apart. I want you to straighten your right leg as hard as you can. Just straighten it, straighten it, straighten it. Toes back. Hi, I'm Dr. Adam Fields. You've rolled out your iliotibial bands, and now we're going to do some strengthening. Let's go ahead and bring your foam roller under your knees, feet about hip distance apart. I want you to straighten your right leg as hard as you can. Just straighten it, straighten it, straighten it. Toes back towards you. We're going to hold this for 30 seconds as hard as you possibly can. Now, I want you to push your leg down a little bit into the foam roller as that leg is totally engaged, right? It has to be contracted as hard as you can to get the actual point of this exercise. The glute is going to be engaged a little bit because your leg is pushing down into that foam roller. Good, just push it hard, 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 hard. Good. Now let's go ahead and switch to the other side. Straighten your left leg as hard as you can. Push your legs down into that foam roller. Engage the adductor, the inner thigh just a little bit. So it's like everything's engaging here, right? This is just all engagement. It's that last 5 degrees of the range of motion that we really want to be working here. That end, this is an isometric contraction. You won't hurt yourself. If it does hurt, if you feel any pain, just stop. But I think you're going to be fine here. Let's go to the other side, and let's go ahead and straighten the leg as hard as you can. And we're going to do some circles with the ankle, but still keep that leg straight. So circle, beautiful. Straighten that leg as hard as you can. Do not let that straightening let up. You're doing great. Let's go ahead the other direction. Beautiful. Woo! Feeling it. Good. Let's go with the other leg. Straighten it as hard as you can. And circles. Circles. It's keeping that coordination going while you're engaging the leg. Let's go the other direction now. Hard as you can. Pull the shoulders down. Chest is up. Big breaths. Good. Beautiful. And let's straighten the right leg again. And this time we're going to point to the end range motion so you feel the calf engaged, but your leg is totally straight. And then extend and bring the toe up towards your head. Good. Now toes pointed and back. That leg is so, it's like a board, really. And back towards you. Beautiful. You're doing great. And let's switch to the other side. Straighten as hard as you can. I want you to be straightening so hard that you're at, and keep pointing and extending the foot, that you're just shaking. I want you to shake like a leaf, right? Just go for it. Engage the inner thigh a little bit. So you're almost like you're sliding your leg towards the other leg and pointing and bringing it back towards you. Pointing back towards you. Beautiful. Chest is up. Okay, let's take the foam roller out, put it to your side, and we're going to just stretch your hamstrings. We're going to stretch and we're going to pulse, okay? I want you to pull above or below the knee. We're going to go to the other side and push that low back into the ground, and we're just going to stretch the hamstrings. It's kind of an active stretch. Engage the abs. Your head is off the mat. Beautiful. And push that low back into the ground as hard as you can. Don't want to arch that low back here. Good job. Keep going. Beautiful. Breathing out as you pull. Good. Okay, we're going to do a little bridge. I want you to pull those heels as close as you can towards your butt. Arch your low back a little bit. Now, with this, it's nice. You protect the knees a little bit. If you squeeze the foam roller in between your knees, lift the toes and lift those hips off the ground and feel your glutes. Are they rock hard? Yes. Great. Are the hamstrings relaxed? Great. So let's do a couple pulses here. Pulse it. Push the legs straight down into the ground. Like your tibia are just vertical and they're going directly into the ground and the hips are coming up. Beautiful. Squeeze that roller. Squeeze it. Squeeze it. Good. Let's keep going. 10, 9, feel the glutes engage. Good, put the roller down, straighten the right leg, let it flare out a little bit, and now I want you to straighten that leg as hard as you can, and we're gonna bring it up and twist it so that when you get to the knee, the toe is pointed pretty much straight up. So then you bring it out like a windshield wiper and back up. Engage the abs, don't let them let up. We're gonna be feeling this, hopefully, vastus medialis obliquus, right there, that lower muscle, and your inner thigh a bit. But if you straighten as hard as you can, you're gonna be more VMO. There you go. Toe back towards you. This should be challenging. And then set your leg down close to the hips. And then we're gonna straighten the other leg. We're gonna lift it and bring it up to meet the knee. Not above the knee, just to the knee. Great. This is solid knee rehabilitation stuff. Great prep if you want to do squats or something intense, even if you don't have a knee problem. This is a great warm-up. Really get your knee tracking right, get the proper muscles engaging, getting that patella tracking properly, and really get your knee on track. Here we go, straighten that leg as hard as you can. Windshield wiper that leg. Okay, we're gonna do the bridges again. Heels really close to the butt. Roller in between the knees and lift. Okay, this time we're gonna do isometric contraction. You're gonna squeeze that roller as hard as you can. And what we're gonna do is you're gonna lift your right leg and push down with your left leg. Now, before we do it, I'm gonna tell you, if this is too much, just go back to this position, keeping your hips up. Don't drop your hips at all the entire, we're gonna go a minute and a half, okay? So go ahead and just lift, chest is up, arch the low back. Good. Straighten the leg that's up and push down with the leg that's bent. Feel that hamstring should be relaxed. All the weight should be going right into the glute. You should be shaking a little bit. This is a little bit of a challenge. Arch that low back, push your scapula into the ground, straighten the leg on the ground, push those hips up towards the ceiling. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and switch and straighten the opposite leg. Chest is up. How are we doing? Arch that low back. Squeeze the knees together. Chest is up. Lift those hips up towards the ceiling. Focus. Straighten the leg as hard as you can and push the other leg straight down into the ground. 10 more seconds. You're doing great. Big breath. Gonna go ahead and just put the roller aside. And we're gonna do some lifts again. This time the leg's straight. So the foot is gonna be going straight up to the ceiling and down again. The leg completely contracted. Contract that leg and lift. Keep the low back pushed into the ground. Your foot might want to flare as you go down to the bottom, but keep it centered and straighten the leg as hard as you can. I say that so much on this, but it's so important because we want to work more your leg than we do your hip flexor on this. 5 more. Or if you need to rest now, rest. Either do them perfect or don't do them. And plant that foot. Let's go to the other side and lift. Beautiful. Straighten that leg Every rep will remind it straighter. 4 more. 1, good job. 2, 3, 1 more. 4, good. Let's go ahead and do another bridge. Hips real close to your heels, lift up. We're gonna do that single leg bridge again. Lift the right leg, chest is up, pushing down with the left leg, straighten the right leg. Good. You can do hands up, get a little bit more out of it. Arch up onto your shoulders. Good. Straighten that right leg, push that left leg down. Push, 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 push. You're gonna be shaking right now, that's a good thing. Seconds. And let's go ahead and drop that foot, lift the other, and push up. Proud posture, chest is up, shoulders down, arms are straight. Everything, you're like a stiff soldier, doing it. Navy SEALs, right here, pushing through it, never giving up. Feel, re-engage that glute, get acquainted with that glute. Learn what it does, learn how to make it work for you. Push down into the ground with that heel hard. There you go. Straighten the left leg, beautiful. Okay, we're gonna go on our side. Okay, go on your side, big knee.
That part, that was responding, so now this is easy.
Top leg is gonna go here or here, okay? Bottom leg is just gonna straighten and lift and hold. And down, lift and hold. Lift and hold, good. Lift and hold, again, you're working that VMO. Lift and hold, good job. Woo! It's a good one. Okay, and pulses now at the top. 40 of them. Good. And let's bring your legs together 90 degrees. We're going to do some clams. So stack the hips, open up the legs, and squeeze at the top. Open up the legs, squeeze at the top. Good. Open, squeeze. Engage the abs. Get your body used to engaging your abs. Perfect. One more. Good. Let's do those in the thighs again. And let's lift and hold. And down, lift, hold. You can get a little internal, external rotation. So you bring it down externally, rotate your leg a little bit, and internally rotate as you bring it up to the top. And pause at the top. Breathe out on the way up. And pulses. And good, very good. Okay, let's just do side lifts. Okay, we're just gonna lift the leg and bring it down. Good. Lift the leg and bring it down. Lift and bring it. Good job. Keep that toe pointed straight ahead. Good, now we're going to do with the toe pointed out. Straighten that leg. Woo. Good job. And let's head over to the other side.
I could have put like 100 commercials on this. She only put that one. I expect him for it.
Okay, we're gonna do the side lift again. Feet flat on the ground. We're just gonna lift, lift, lift. There we go. Lift and hold. Lift and hold. Good job. Lift and hold. Straighten that leg as hard as you can. Deep ball. There we go. And now we're gonna pulse. Pulse it. Engage the abs. One more. 10. And let's do some clams. 90 degrees and open. Open. You got it. Chest is up. Engage the abs. Open and squeeze them open. Open and squeeze them open. Have the best glutes in town. Work your glutes. The glutes are your friend. 2 more. Push it and hold at the end. Good. 1 more. Push it, hold at the end. Let's go in the thigh again. Lift it up and hold. Rotate out, rotate in. Do a little external, internal rotation on this. There it is. And then just push and pull, 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 pull. Oh, good. Now we're going to do side lifts. And we're just going to be toe pointed straight ahead and lift and hold and bring it down. Lift and hold, bring it down. Engage those abs. Chest is up like a ballet dancer. There it is. Horizontal ballet. Now point your toe up towards the ceiling and up and down. Up. There you go. Up. Good. Okay, internal. Again, let's work those inner thighs, not the MO. Put that foot down, straighten that leg, and we'll lift and hold, and down. Lift and hold, down. Straighten the legs as hard as you can. Breathing out on the way up. Squeeze it. That teardrop muscle. Visualize it in your head. See it. See it vibrate. See it big. See it working for you. See it going down the ski slopes. See it on your mountain bike. See it absolutely functioning big time. And you straighten that leg as hard as you can, and now pull.
Oh my God.
Good job. Okay. Let's go ahead and stretch your hamstring a little bit. Just pull that hamstring.
Natural steroids you need to be taking every day.
Whoa.
The last one will surprise you.
No steroids. No. Natural food.
What is up, my moderate warriors, and welcome back to another video and another follow along. Today we're going to be going over a hip flexibility routine focused on internal rotation, external rotation of the hip, as well as the squat. As always, the full offline PDF downloadable one is linked in the description down below. But otherwise, let's jump
That's
into
some Gary been
the
cheesing.
routine. So before we start with this one, if you are tight, you're probably going to want to grab a couple of yoga blocks just to aid you with some of the exercises that we're going to be doing. So we're going to start in the old favourite, the nice lying position. We're going to sit with our legs just outside shoulder width. Other times we're going to drop to the right hand side first, and one leg goes into external rotation, the other goes into internal rotation. And if our legs just outside shoulder width, also fine. So we're going to drop to the right hand side first, and one leg goes into external rotation, the other goes into internal rotation. Try to keep the torso forward, and then we're going to swap back to the other side. We're going to do 10 of these just to warm up, just to help warm up the rotation of the hips, and kind of get ourselves prepared for this short session. With this routine, we're going to be focusing a lot around this position that I'm in currently. But developing internal external rotation of the hip is really useful for improving hip mobility and also specifically squat flexibility.
So I've been logging up on defense, yo.
Focus quite a bit
Working
on
on my hips.
the strengthening lines, so it's going to be a little bit crampy, a little bit in places, but it's always a good thing. Right, I'm going to do one more, so I've lost count of me talking, and then we're going to
So I've been logging up on defense, yo.
right hand side. So we're going to start in a nice lying position. So this right leg needs to
Lock
be
up,
open
get your hips
at
open.
more than 90 degrees. Back leg, we want the knee in line with the hip, and then the other leg straight. If you're tight, what you're going to do, you're going to grab your yoga block, place it underneath your hip, and then this means there's less external rotation needed, less internal rotation needed. So find an intensity that is good for you. From here, we're going to lean on forward. We're not going to round on forward. We're going to lean as far as we can. We're going to try and twist those hips, and we come into a stretch. What we're going to do here is we're going to press the knee down into the ground. So I'm going to think about pressing this way for 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to try and lift up my knee into my hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. Go a little bit deeper. Same again. Press the knee into the ground. 2, 3, 4, 5. And lift. 2, 3, 4, 5. Again. Twist. Sink a little bit deeper. One last one. Press. 2, 3, 4, 5. And lift. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here we should be feeling a stretch in the glute on this right leg. So keep on that. We're going to come back, sit back out of it, get back onto those hands. We're going to twist, try and face the torso into this left leg, and you should be feeling a stretch in internal rotation now. So it's going to come down into the side of the hip. I can feel it on the inside as well. I'm going to hold this one for about 20 seconds before we get into the crampy one. So we're going to work on developing internal rotation. Now, a lot of times internal rotation is tighter than external for a lot of people. And also, it's going to vary from side to side. One side might be tighter, one side might be looser. That's all fine. Do an extra rep on the tight side, do an extra set on the tight side. It's all good. Okay, we're going to come back. That nice position. Stay nice and upright. What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and lift the foot to that back leg. Now, what we want to avoid doing is trying to come forward loads to lift it. And we also don't want to just lean over to the side. We're going to try and stay as upright as possible and try and lift. Even if you just lift it like literally a millimetre off the ground, or just think about trying to lift it, absolutely fine. You're going to lift 3 reps, 5 seconds. So lift, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax. I feel some cramps in this area, but we just need to continue. 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 seconds rest. I'm just going to do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nice. If it cramps, it's good. Keep going. The best way to get rid of cramp is just try and do it harder. Right, I'm going to twist back onto that leg, and what we're going to try and do is we're going to open it up as far as we can. So we're going to try and think about not letting this knee, this one, come off the ground. So we're going to try and pin that to the ground, lift and twist as far as you can, drop it back to the center. 10 of these. Squeeze the glutes to really try and open the hip. If you lean back a bit, it should make this drill a little bit easier, but it's still going to be kind of pinchy in the hip. 10 in total. We're on this, going to be the 6th one. Couple second pause at the top. Last one. Pause. Come back into that middle position. We're going to switch around. We're going to go over to that left leg now. Again, same difference. 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. Going to twist on over onto this front leg. And we're going to come into a nice stretch again. Chest upright. Tilt the pelvis. We're going to press that knee down into the ground. For 5. 5. And then we're going to try and lift up into the hand. So lift. 2, 3, 4, 5. Get a bit deeper in. Press into the ground. 2, 3, 4, 5. And lift. 2, 3, 4, 5. And last one. Yeah, press. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to lift. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Lovely. Nice stretch over that glute. That left leg. Come back up. Get a twist. Lean back and chill before we then get into the cramp exercise for the right hand side. While we're here for these 20 seconds, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you don't forget to give it a thumbs up.
Make sure you
I really
like,
appreciate that one.
subscribe. Help me if you want to see more content like this.
In the comment section down below. Right, now we move on to the cramp. So we're going to turn back into that left leg. Maximum effort, going to try and lift that right foot up, hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we can relax. This is when you're going to discover whether one is tighter than the other. Again, we're going to lift. 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll figure down. We're going to do one last one. So lift. 2, 3, 4, 5. And that. Last 5. And we're then going to come back onto the back and twist. Really try to keep that knee pinned down and open it as far as you can. 10 of these again. Keep going this way. 4. Again, that's a little bit of a glute burn going on as well potentially. Last one after this. And come now into this 90-90 just to shake things off a second whilst you've done that first. Tailor pose, butterfly pose. You can grab your feet as well. Use the elbows to push on out to either side. And then just relax for a second before we jump into the next portion. Right, so from here we're going to jump up into a squat. Just shift over to the right hand side of the mat. We're going to let our foot shift out. We're going to drop back into a Cossack squat. Now, if you can't get a Cossack squat for whatever reason it is, next best option, grab onto an anchor point in front of you. So grab a chair, grab something that is going to be able to hold you in this position. Pause the video while you do that, and then we can continue. We're going to sit just for 10 seconds. We're going to try and think about pushing this right knee out, opening up the hips, just sitting in that position, and then we're simply going to move, keeping the hips as low as we can down to the ground, the opposite leg. Let the foot stand up at the bottom, and we're just going to pause in this position. We're going to go back and forth 10 times. That's good. So, shift, keep those hips nice and low, down into that Cossack squat, hold, and then shift back. So the idea is to keep these hips super low to the ground the entire time, and that's the challenge. Again, if you're doing this with an anchor point, you're going to do it absolutely fine. So 10 in total, we've now done 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, side. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back to that right hand side, and from here, we're just going to twist around 90 degrees to the right hand side. And then we're going to basically be in a lunge position. So now a little stretch over this hip flexor. All we're going to do here is we're going to let that right hip hang out. We're going to go down as low as we can go, ideally onto our elbows. We're going to hold this position. We're going to try and rock back and forward. You can feel that to stretch a bit. We'll just let that hip hang out on this side, feel a bit of stretch in the glutes, the adductors, and just generally chill out. From here, we're going to do 5 rotations. Reach, nice to the right side, come back. Again, reach. Just 5 of these of each side. 1. Lovely. Come back up into a lunge, twist, cross that squat, other side, twist into that hip flexor position. Again, let the hip hang out, let this one go to the side, feel that stretch over the hip as well. Back down to that low position again. We can just feel out and chill here for a second.
Loosen up. Let's see it, man. I don't know if you can see it from up here. We're working on it.
Again, we're going to do some twists. So reach up to the sky, down, reach. 5 of these. Last one, follow.
I don't know if you can see it, but it's all loose here.
Come back up. And we're going to go into pancake position. So we're going to keep our straddle, keep feet together, legs locked. We're going to let gravity do it flat and pull us down into that pancake position. So if you want to, you can think about here, trying to use the hip flexors to pull you deeper into that stretch position. So again, you can chill out here. Feel the stretch, go down as far as you can, just lift the elbows if you're up here. All is absolutely fine. Just looking for a stretch on the hamstrings and into our hips. So again, we can just chill out, hold this position for 10, 15, 20 seconds. And then from here, just walk this feet in, and finish up the squat position. And that is basically it for this squat routine. As I've already said, if you enjoyed this one, hit the thumbs up button, leave a like down below. Also, let me know your thoughts on this follow along routine with us.
A couple seconds, y'all. I'm gonna go use the bathroom. Come finish this workout. I'll play this in the background for y'all so you're not just waiting.
The man. Why had I committed my life to go back to her father? Then a strange thing happened. All the world seemed to be of a different color, as though I had been looking at it through a colored stone which had suddenly been removed. At last I saw the true values in life. Die in the desert, not I. With a new vision, I saw the things that I must do. First, I would go back to Babylon and face every man to whom I owed an unpaid debt. I should tell them that after years of wandering and misfortune, I had come back to pay my debts as fast as the gods would permit. Next, I should make a home for my wife and become a citizen of whom my parents should be proud. My debts were my enemies, but the men I owed were my friends, for they had trusted me and believed in me. I staggered weakly to my feet. What mattered hunger? What mattered thirst? They were but incidents on the road to Babylon. Within me surged the soul of a free man going back to conquer his enemies and reward his friends. I thrilled with the great resolve. The glazed eyes of my camels brightened.
Seth, FaceTime video.
Yo. You know the vibes, good, bro. I'm recording, by the way. You wanna say what's up to the vlog? Yeah, how you? Alright, bet. I bet. You said tomorrow, like 7? I'm definitely down. If anything, I'll just ask my brother. He's usually not in class like Fridays. I don't know if he got boot shoes, but yeah, man, it's been a minute. Like, he definitely might be up for it. I don't wanna speak for him, but he could probably give me a ride though. And that's what Kingsville, right? Yeah, I mean he stays out Columbia too, so if it will work out for him, then yeah, cause like that's closer to like where he be at. But yeah, I definitely could find my way out there though. Like I'm gonna make something work. If it's not him, maybe something else. But yeah, no, all good. Yeah, I could definitely get out there. All right, bro. So talk to you. See you tomorrow. All right, bro. Enjoy work, man. Talk soon. I appreciate you. I know what you mean, though. Yeah, I'm gonna keep recording. Oh yeah.
My husky voice. With great effort, after many attempts, they gained their feet. With pitiful perseverance, they pushed on toward the north, where something within me said we would find Babylon.
I got the charger. I'll be back in.
We found water. We passed into a more fertile country where were grass and fruit. We found the trail to Babylon because the soul of a free man looks at life as a series of problems to be solved and solves them, while the soul of a slave whines, "What can I do who am but a slave?" How about thee, Tophead? Does thy empty stomach make thy head exceedingly clear? Art ready to take the road that leads back to self-respect? Canst thou see the world in its true color? Hast thou the desire to pay thy honest debts, however many they may be, and once again be a man respected in Babylon? Moisture came to the eyes of the youth. He rose eagerly to his knees. Thou hast shown me a vision. Already I feel the soul of a free man surge within me. But how fared you upon your return? Questioned an interested listener. Where the determination is, the way can be found, Davasir replied. I now had the determination, so I set out to find a way. First I visited every man to whom I was indebted and begged his indulgence until I could earn that with which to repay. Most of them met me gladly. Several reviled me, but others offered to help me. One indeed did give me the very help I needed. It was Maython, the gold lender. Learning that I had been a camel tender in Syria, he sent me to old Nebator, the camel trader, just commissioned by our good king to purchase many herds of sound camels for the great expedition. With him, my knowledge of camels I put to good use. Gradually, I was able to repay every copper and every piece of silver. Then at last I could hold up my head and feel that I was an honorable man among men. Again, Davasir turned to his food. Kaskor, thou snail, he called loudly to be heard in the kitchen. The food is cold. Bring me more meat fresh from the roasting. Bring thou also a very large portion for Tarkad, the son of my old friend, who is hungry and shall eat with me. So ended the tale of Davasir, the camel trader of old Babylon. He found his own soul when he realized a great truth, a truth that had been known and used by wise men long before his time. It has led men of all ages out of difficulties and into success, and it will continue to do so for those who have the wisdom to understand its magic power. It is for any man to use who reads these lines. Where the determination is, the way can be found. Chapter 9. The Clay Tablets from Babylon. St. Swithin's College, Nottingham University, Newark-on-Trent, Nottingham. October 21st, 1934. Professor Franklin Caldwell, care of British Scientific Expedition, Hilla, Mesopotamia. My dear Professor, the 5 clay tablets from your recent excavation in the ruins of Babylon arrived on the same boat with your letter. I have been fascinated no end and have spent many pleasant hours translating their inscriptions. I should have answered your letter at once, but delayed until I could complete the translations which are attached. The tablets arrived without damage thanks to your careful use of preservatives and excellent packing. You will be as astonished as we in the laboratory at the story they relate. One expects the dim and distant past to speak of romance and adventure. Arabian Nights sort of things, you know. When instead it discloses the problem of a person named Davasir to pay off his debts, one realizes that conditions upon this old world have not changed as much in 5,000 years as one might expect. It's odd, you know, but these old inscriptions rather rag me, as the students say. Being a college professor, I am supposed to be a thinking human being possessing a working knowledge of most subjects. Yet here comes this old chap out of the dust-covered ruins of Babylon to offer a way I had never heard of to pay off my debts, and at the same time acquire gold to jingle in my wallet. Pleasant thought, I say, and interesting to prove whether it will work as well nowadays as it did in old Babylon. Mrs. Shrewsbury and myself are planning to try out his plan upon our own affairs, which could be much improved. Wishing you the best of luck in your worthy undertaking and waiting eagerly another opportunity to assist, I am, yours sincerely, Alfred H. Shrewsbury, Department of Archaeology. Tablet 1. Now, when the moon becometh full, I, Davasir, who am but recently returned from slavery in Syria, with the determination to pay my many just debts and become a man of means worthy of respect in my native city of Babylon, do here engrave upon the clay a permanent record of my affairs to guide and assist me in carrying through my high desires. Under the wise advice of my good friend Nathan, the gold lender, I am determined to follow an exact plan that he doth say will lead any honorable man out of debt into means and self-respect. This plan included 3 purposes which are my hope and desire. First, the plan doth provide for my future prosperity. Therefore, 1/10 of all I earn shall be set aside as my own to keep. For Mathon speaketh wisely when he saith, that man who keepeth in his purse both gold and silver that he need not spend is good to his family and loyal to his king. The man who hath but a few coppers in his purse is indifferent to his family and indifferent to his king. But the man who hath naught in his purse is unkind to his family and disloyal to his king, for his own heart is bitter. Therefore, the man who wisheth to achieve must have coin that he may keep to jingle in his purse, that he have in his heart love for his family and loyalty to his king. Second, the plan doth provide that I shall support and clothe my good wife who hath returned to me with loyalty from the house of her father. For Mathon doth say that to take good care of a faithful wife putteth self-respect into the heart of a man, and addeth strength and determination to his purposes. Therefore, 7/10 of all I earn shall be used to provide a home, clothes to wear, and food to eat, with a bit extra to spend, that our lives be not lacking in pleasure and enjoyment. But he doth further enjoin the greatest care that we spend not greater than 7/10 of what I earn for these worthy purposes. Herein lieth the success of the plan. I must live upon this portion, and never use more, nor buy what I may not pay for out of this portion.
This ends Disc 3. The Richest Man in Babylon, Disc 4.
Tablet 2. Third, the plan doth provide that out of my earnings my debts shall be paid. Therefore, each time the moon is full, 2/10 of all I have earned shall be divided honorably and fairly among those who have trusted me and to whom I am indebted. Thus, in due time, will all my indebtedness be surely paid. Therefore, do I here engrave the name of every man to whom I am indebted and the honest amount of my debt. Faru, the cloth weaver, 2 silver, 6 copper. Sinjar, the couch maker, 1 silver. Amar, my friend, 3 silver, 1 copper. Zankar, my friend, 4 silver, 7 copper. Askamir, my friend, 1 silver, 3 copper. Haransir, the jewel maker, 6 silver, 2 copper. Diarbakir, my father's friend, 4 silver, 1 copper. Alkahad, the house owner, 14 silver. Mathon, the gold lender, 9 silver. Birajik, the farmer, 1 silver, 7 copper. From here on, disintegrated, cannot be deciphered. Tablet 3. To these creditors do I owe in total 119 pieces of silver and 141 pieces of copper. Because I did owe these sums and saw no way to repay, in my folly I did permit my wife to return to her father, and didst leave my native city and seek easy wealth elsewhere, only to find disaster and to see myself sold into the degradation of slavery. Now that Mathon doth show me how I can repay my debts in small sums of my earnings, do I realize the great extent of my folly in running away from the results of my extravagances. Therefore have I visited my creditors and explained to them that I have no resources with which to pay except my ability to earn, and that I intend to apply 2/10 of all I earn upon my indebtedness evenly and honestly. This much can I pay, but no more. Therefore, if they be patient, in time my obligations will be paid in full. Amar, whom I thought my best friend, reviled me bitterly, and I left him in humiliation. Birajik, the farmer, pleaded that I pay him first, as he didst badly need help. Alcahad, the house owner, was indeed disagreeable, and insisted that he would make me trouble unless I did soon settle in full with him. All the rest willingly accepted my proposal. Therefore am I more determined than ever to carry through, being convinced that it is easier to pay one's just debts than to avoid them. Even though I cannot meet the needs and demands of a few of my creditors, I will deal impartially with all. Tablet 4. Again the moon shines full. I have worked hard with a free mind. My good wife hath supported my intentions to pay my creditors. Because of our wise determination, I have earned during the past moon, buying camels of sound wind and good legs for Nevertor, the sum of 19 pieces of silver. This I have divided according to the plan. 1/10 have I set aside to keep as my own. 7/10 have I divided with my good wife to pay for our living. 2/10 have I divided among my creditors as evenly as could be done in coppers. I did not see Amar, but left it with his wife. Birajik was so pleased that he would kiss my hand. Old Alcahad alone was grouchy and said I must pay faster. To which I replied that if I were permitted to be well fed and not worried, that alone would enable me to pay faster. All the others thanked me and spoke well of my efforts. Therefore, at the end of one moon, my indebtedness is reduced by almost 4 pieces of silver, and I possess almost 2 pieces of silver besides, upon which no man hath claim. My heart is lighter than it hath been for a long time. Again the moon shines full. I have worked hard, but with poor success. Few camels have I been able to buy. Only 11 pieces of silver have I earned. Nevertheless, my good wife and I have stood by the plan, even though we have bought no new raiment and eaten little but herbs. Again, I paid ourselves 1/10 of the 11 pieces, while we lived upon 7/10. I was surprised when Amar commended my payment, even though small. So did Birajik. Alcahad flew into a rage, but when told to give back his portion if he did not wish it, he became reconciled. The others, as before, were content. Again the moon shines full, and I am greatly rejoiced. I intercepted a fine herd of camels and bought many sound ones. Therefore my earnings were 42 pieces of silver. This moon my wife and myself have bought much needed sandals and raiment. Also we have dined well on meat and fowl. More than 8 pieces of silver we have paid to our creditors. Even Alcahad did not protest. Great is the plan, for it leadeth us out of debt and giveth us wealth which is ours to keep. 3 times the moon hath been full since I last carved upon this clay. Each time I paid to myself 1/10 of all I earned. Each time my good wife and I have lived upon 7/10, even though at times it was difficult. Each time have I paid to my creditors 2/10. In my purse I now have 21 pieces of silver that are mine. It maketh my head to stand straight upon my shoulders, and maketh me proud to walk among my friends. My wife keepeth well our home, and is becomingly gowned. We are happy to live together. The plan man is of untold value. Hath it not made an honorable man of an ex-slave? Tablet 5. Again the moon shines full, and I remember that it is long since I carved upon the clay. 12 moons in truth have come and gone. But this day I will not neglect my record, because upon this day I have paid the last of my debts. This is the day upon which my good wife and my thankful self celebrate with great feasting that our determination hath been achieved. Many things occurred upon my final visit to my creditors that I shall long remember. Amar begged my forgiveness for his unkind words, and said that I was one of all others he most desired for a friend. Old Alcahad is not so bad afterward, for he said, "Thou wert once a piece of soft clay to be pressed and molded by any hand that touched thee. But now thou art a piece of bronze capable of holding an edge. If thou needst silver or gold at any time, come to me." Nor is he the only one who holdeth me in high regard. Many others speak deferentially to me. My good wife looketh upon me with a light in her eyes that doth make a man have confidence in himself. Yet it is the plan that hath made my success. It hath enabled me to pay all my debts and to jingle both gold and silver in my purse. I do commend it to all who wish to get ahead. For truly, if it will enable an ex-slave to pay his debts and have gold in his purse, will it not aid any man to find independence? Nor am I myself finished with it, for I am convinced that if I follow it further, it will make me rich among men. St. Swithin's College, Nottingham University, Newark-on-Trent, Nottingham, November 7th, 1936. Professor Franklin Caldwell, care of British Scientific Expedition, Hilla, Mesopotamia. My dear Professor, if in your further digging into those ruins of Babylon you encounter the ghost of a former resident, an old camel trader named Davasir, do me a favor. Tell him that his scribbling upon those clay tablets so long ago has earned for him the lifelong gratitude of a couple of college folks back here in England. You will possibly remember my writing a year ago that Mrs. Shrewsbury and myself intended to try his plan for getting out of debt and at the same time having gold to jingle. You may have guessed, even though we tried to keep it from our friends, our desperate straits. We were frightfully humiliated for years by a lot of old debts, and worried sick for fear some of the tradespeople might start a scandal that would force me out of the college. We paid and paid, every shilling we could squeeze out of income, but it was hardly enough to hold things even. Besides, we were forced to do all our buying where we could get further credit regardless of higher costs. It developed into one of those vicious circles that grow worse instead of better. Our struggles were getting hopeless. We could not move to less costly rooms because we owed the landlord. There did not appear to be anything we could do to improve our situation. Then here comes your acquaintance, the old camel trader from Babylon, with a plan to do just what we wished to accomplish. He jolly well stirred us up to follow his system. We made a list of all our debts, and I took it around and showed it to everyone we owed. I explained how it was simply impossible for me to ever repay them the way things were going along. They could readily see this themselves from the figures. Then I explained that the only way I saw to pay in full was to set aside 20% of my income each month to be divided pro rata, which would pay them in full in a little over 2 years. That in the meantime, we would go on a cash basis and give them the further benefit of our cash purchases. They were really quite decent. Our greengrocer, a wise old chap, put it in a way that helped to bring around the rest. If you pay for all you buy and then pay some on what you owe, that is better than you have done, for you ain't paid down the account none in 3 years. Finally, I secured all their names to an agreement binding them not to molest us as long as the 20% of income was paid regularly. Then we began scheming on how to live upon 70%. We were determined to keep that extra 10% to jingle. The thought of silver and possibly gold was most alluring. It was like having an adventure to make the change. We enjoyed figuring this way and that, to live comfortably upon that remaining 70%. We started with rent and managed to secure a fair reduction. Next, we put our favorite brands of tea and such under suspicion, and were agreeably surprised how often we could purchase superior qualities at less cost. It is too long a story for a letter, but anyhow, it did not prove difficult. We managed, and right cheerfully at that. What a relief it proved to have our affairs in such a shape we were no longer persecuted by past due accounts. I must not neglect, however, to tell you about that extra 10% we were supposed to jingle. Well, we did jingle it for some time. Now, don't laugh too soon. You see, that is the sporty part. It is the real fun to start accumulating money that you do not want to spend. There is more pleasure in running up such a surplus than there could be in spending it. After we had jingled to our heart's content, we found a more profitable use for it. We took up an investment upon which we could pay that 10% each month. This is proving to be the most satisfying part of our regeneration. It is the first thing we pay out of my check. There is a most gratifying sense of security to know our investment is growing steadily. By the time my teaching days are over, it should be a snug sum, large enough so the income will take care of us from then on. All this out of my same old check. Difficult to believe, yet absolutely true. All our debts being gradually paid, and at the same time our investment increasing. Besides, we get along financially even better than before. Who would believe there could be such a difference in results between following a financial plan and just drifting along? At the end of the next year, when all our old bills shall have been paid, we will have more to pay upon our investment besides some extra for travel. We are determined never again to permit our living expenses to exceed 70% of our income. Now you can understand why we would like to extend our personal thanks to that old chap whose plan saved us from our hell on earth. He knew. He had been through it all. He wanted others to benefit from his own bitter experiences. That is why he spent tedious hours carving his message upon the clay. He had a real message for fellow sufferers, a message so important that after 5,000 years, it has risen out of the ruins of Babylon just as true and just as vital as the day it was buried. Yours sincerely, Alfred H. Shrewsbury, Department of Archaeology. Chapter 10. The Luckiest Man in Babylon. At the head of his caravan proudly rode Sharonada, the merchant prince of Babylon. He liked fine cloth and wore rich and becoming robes. He liked fine animals and sat easily upon his spirited Arabian stallion. To look at him, one would hardly have guessed his advanced years. Certainly, they would not have suspected that he was inwardly troubled. The journey from Damascus is long, and the hardships of the desert many. These he minded not. The Arab tribes are fierce and eager to loot rich caravans. These he feared not, for as many fleet-mounted guards were a safe protection. About the youth at his side, whom he was bringing from Damascus, was he disturbed. This was Hayden Gula, the grandson of his partner of other years, Arid Gula, to whom he felt he owed a debt of gratitude which could never be repaid. He would like to do something for this grandson, but the more he considered this, the more difficult it seemed because of the youth himself. Eyeing the young man's rings and earrings, he thought to himself, he thinks jewels are for men. Still, he has his grandfather's strong face. But his grandfather wore no such gaudy robes. Yet I sought him to come, hoping I might help him get a start for himself and get away from the wreck his father has made of their inheritance. Hayden Gula broke in upon his thoughts. Why dost thou work so hard, riding always with thy caravan upon its long journeys? Dost thou never take time to enjoy life? Sharunada smiled. To enjoy life, he repeated. What wouldst thou do to enjoy life if thou wert Sharunada? If I had wealth equal to thine, I would live like a prince. Never across the hot desert would I ride. I would spend the shekels as fast as they came to my purse. I would wear the richest of robes and the rarest of jewels. That would be a life to my liking, a life worth living. Both men laughed. Thy grandfather wore no jewels, Sharunada spoke before he thought, then continued jokingly, wouldst thou leave no time for work? Work was made for slaves, Hayden Gula responded. Sharunada bit his lip but made no reply, riding in silence until the trail led them to the slope. Here he reined his mount and, pointing to the green valley far away, see, there is the valley. Look far down and thou canst faintly see the walls of Babylon. The tower is the temple of Bel. If thine eyes are sharp, thou mayest even see the smoke from the eternal fire upon its crest. So that is Babylon? Always have I longed to see the wealthiest city in all the world, Hayden Gula commented. Babylon, where my grandfather started his fortune. Would he were still alive, we would not be so sorely pressed. Why wish his spirit to linger on earth beyond its allotted time? Thou and thy father can well carry on his good work. Alas, of us neither has his gift. Father and myself know not his secret for attracting the golden shekels. Sharunada did not reply, but gave rein to his mount and rode thoughtfully down the trail to the valley. Behind them followed the caravan in a cloud of reddish dust. Sometime later, they reached the King's Highway and turned south through the irrigated farms. 3 old men plowing a field caught Sharunada's attention. They seemed strangely familiar. How ridiculous. One does not pass a field after 40 years and find the same men plowing there. Yet something within him said they were the same. One, with an uncertain grip, held the plow. The others laboriously plodded beside the oxen, ineffectually beating them with their barrel staves to keep them pulling. 40 years ago, he had envied these men. How gladly he would have exchanged places. But what a difference now. With pride, he looked back at his trailing caravan, well-chosen camels and donkeys loaded high with valuable goods from Damascus. All this was but one of his possessions. He pointed to the plowers, saying, still plowing the same field where they were 40 years ago. They look it, but why thinkest thou they are the same? I saw them there, Sharunada replied. Recollections were racing rapidly through his mind. Why could he not bury the past and live in the present? Then he saw, as in a picture, the smiling face of Arid Gula. The barrier between himself and the cynical youth beside him dissolved. But how could he help such a superior youth with his spendthrift ideas and bejeweled hands? Work he could offer in plenty to willing workers, but not for men who considered themselves too good for work. Yet he owed it to Arigula to do something, not a half-hearted attempt. He and Arigula had never done things that way. They were not that sort of men. A plan came almost in a flash. There were objections. He must consider his own family and his own standing. It would be cruel. It would hurt. Being a man of quick decisions, he waived objections and decided to act. Wouldst thou be interested in hearing how thy worthy grandfather and myself joined in the partnership which proved so profitable? He questioned. Why not just tell me how thou madest the golden shekels? That is all I need to know, the young man parried. Shalunada ignored the reply and continued. We start with those men plowing. I was no older than thou. As the column of men in which I marched approached, good old Megiddo, the farmer, scoffed at the slipshod way in which they plowed. Megiddo was chained next to me. Look at the lazy fellows, he protested. The plow holder makes no effort to plow deep, nor do the beaters keep the oxen in the furrow. How can they expect to raise a good crop with poor plowing? Didst thou say Megiddo was chained to thee? Gula asked in surprise. Yes, with bronze collars about our necks and a length of heavy chain between us. Next to him was Zabado, the sheep thief. I had known him in Harun. At the end was a man we called Pirate because he told us not his name. We judged him as a sailor as he had entwined serpents tattooed upon his chest in sailor fashion. The column was made up thus, so the men could walk in fours. Thou wert chained as a slave? Gula asked incredulously. Did not thy grandfather tell thee I was once a slave? He often spoke of thee, but never hinted of this. He was a man thou couldst trust with innermost secrets. Thou, too, are a man I may trust, am I not right? Sharumnada looked him squarely in the eye. Thou mayest rely upon my silence, but I am amazed. Tell me, how didst thou come to be a slave? Sharumnada shrugged his shoulders. Any man may find himself a slave. It was a gaming house and barley beer that brought me disaster. I was the victim of my brother's indiscretions. In a brawl, he killed his friend. I was bonded to the widow by my father, desperate to keep my brother from being prosecuted under the law. When my father could not raise the silver to free me, she, in anger, sold me to the slave dealer. What a shame and injustice, Gula protested. But tell me, how didst thou regain freedom? We shall come to that, but not yet. Let us continue my tale. As we passed, the plowers jeered at us. One did doff his ragged hat and bow low, calling out, Welcome to Babylon, guests of the king. He waits for thee on the city walls where the banquet is spread, mud bricks and onion soup. With that, they laughed uproariously. Pirate flew into a rage and cursed them roundly. What do those men mean by the king awaiting us on the walls? I asked him. To the city walls ye march to carry bricks until the back breaks. Maybe they beat thee to death before it breaks. They won't beat me. I'll kill 'em. Then Megiddo spoke up. It doesn't make sense to me to talk of masters beating willing, hard-working slaves to death. Masters like good slaves and treat them well. Who wants to work hard? Commented Zabato. Those plowers are wise fellows. They're not breaking their backs, just letting on as if they be. Thou can't get ahead by shirking, Megiddo protested. If thou plow a hectare, that's a good day's work, and any master knows it. But when thou plow only a half, that's shirking. I don't shirk. I like to work, and I like to do good work for work is the best friend I've ever known. It has brought me all the good things I've had. My farm and cows and crops, everything. Yea, and where be these things now? Scoffed Sabado. I figure it pays better to be smart and get by without working. You watch Sabado. If we're sold to the walls, he'll be carrying the water bag or some easy job, when thou, who like to work, will be breaking thy back carrying bricks. He laughed his silly laugh. Terror gripped me that night. I could not sleep. I crowded close to the guard rope, and when the others slept, I attracted the attention of Godoso, who was doing the first guard watch. He was one of those brigand Arabs, the sort of rogue who, if he robbed thee of thy purse, would think he must also cut thy throat. Tell me, Godoso, I whispered, when we get to Babylon, will we be sold to the walls? Why want to know? He questioned cautiously. Canst thou not understand? I pleaded. I am young. I want to live. I don't want to be worked or beaten to death on the walls. Is there any chance for me to get a good master? He whispered back. I tell something. Thou good fellow, give Godoso no trouble. Most times we go first to slave market. Listen now. When buyers come, tell them you good worker, like to work hard for good master, make them want to buy. You not make them buy, next day you carry brick. Mighty hard work. After he walked away, I lay in the warm sand looking up at the stars and thinking about work. What Megiddo had said about it being his best friend made me wonder if it would be my best friend. Certainly it would be if it helped me out of this. When Megiddo awoke, I whispered my good news to him. It was our one ray of hope as we marched toward Babylon. Late in the afternoon, we approached the walls and could see the lines of men, like black ants, climbing up and down the steep diagonal paths. As we drew closer, we were amazed at the thousands of men working. Some were digging in the moat, others mixed the dirt into mud bricks. The greatest number were carrying the bricks in large baskets up those steep trails to the masons. Overseers cursed the laggards and cracked bullock whips over the backs of those who failed to keep in line. Poor, worn-out fellows were seen to stagger and fall beneath their heavy baskets, unable to rise again. If the lash failed to bring them to their feet, they were pushed to the side of the paths and left writhing in agony. Soon they would be dragged down to join other craven bodies beside the roadway to await unsanctified graves. As I beheld the ghastly sight, I shuddered. So this was what awaited my father's son if he failed at the slave market. Godoso had been right. We were taken through the gates of the city to the slave prison, and next morning marched to the pens in the market. Here the rest of the men huddled in fear, and only the whips of our guard could keep them moving so the buyers could examine them. Megiddo and myself eagerly talked to every man who permitted us to address him. The slave dealer brought soldiers from the king's guard who shackled Pirate and brutally beat him when he protested. As they led him away, I felt sorry for him. Megiddo felt that we would soon part. When no buyers were near, he talked to me earnestly to impress upon me how valuable work would be to me in the future. Some men hate it. They make it their enemy. Better to treat it like a friend. Make thyself like it. Don't mind because it is hard. If thou thinkest about what a good house thou build, then who cares if the beams are heavy and it is far from the well to carry the water for the plaster? Promise me, boy, if thou get a master, work for him as hard as thou canst. If he does not appreciate all thou do, never mind. Remember, work well done does good to the man who does it. It makes him a better man. He stopped as a burly farmer came to the enclosure and looked at us critically. Megiddo asked about his farm and crops, soon convincing him that he would be a valuable man. After violent bargaining with a slave dealer, the farmer drew a fat purse from beneath his robe, and soon Megiddo had followed his new master out of sight. A few other men were sold during the morning. At noon, Godoso confided to me that the dealer was disgusted and would not stay over another night, but would take all who remained at sundown to the king's buyer. I was becoming desperate when a fat, good-natured man walked up to the wall and inquired if there was a baker among us. I approached him, saying, "Why should a good baker like thyself seek another baker of inferior ways? Would it not be easier to teach a willing man like myself thy skilled ways? Look at me. I am young, strong, and like to work. Give me a chance, and I will do my best to earn gold and silver for thy purse." He was impressed by my willingness and began bargaining with the dealer, who had never noticed me since he had bought me, but now waxed eloquent on my abilities, good health, and good disposition. I felt like a fat ox being sold to a butcher. At last, much to my joy, the deal was closed. I followed my new master away, thinking I was the luckiest man in Babylon. My new home was much to my liking. Nananaid, my master, taught me how to grind the barley in the stone bowl that stood in the courtyard, how to build the fire in the oven, and then how to grind very fine the sesame flour for the honey cakes. I had a couch in the shed where his grain was stored. The old slave housekeeper, Swasti, fed me well and was pleased at the way I helped her with the heavy tasks. Here was the chance I had longed for to make myself valuable to my master, and I hoped to find a way to earn my freedom. I asked Nananaid to show me how to knead the bread and to bake. This he did, much pleased at my willingness. Later, when I could do this well, I asked him to show me how to make the honey cakes, and soon I was doing all the baking. My master was glad to be idle, but Swasti shook her head in disapproval. "No work to do is bad for any man," she declared. I felt it was time for me to think of a way by which I might start to earn coins to buy my freedom. As the baking was finished at noon, I thought Nananaid would approve if I found profitable employment for the afternoons and might share my earnings with me. Then the thought came to me, why not bake more of the honey cakes and peddle them to hungry men upon the streets of the city? I presented my plan to Nananaid this way. If I can use my afternoons after the baking is finished to earn for thee coins, would it be only fair for thee to share my earnings with me, that I might have money of my own to spend for those things which every man desires and needs? Fair enough, he admitted. When I told him of my plan to peddle our honey cakes, he was well pleased. "Here is what we will do," he suggested. "Thou sellest them at 2 for a penny, then half of the pennies will be mine to pay for the flour and the honey and the wood to bake them. Of the rest I shall take half, and thou shalt keep half." I was much pleased by this generous offer, that I might keep for myself 1/4 of my sales. That night I worked late to make a tray upon which to display them. Nananaid gave me one of his worn robes that I might look well, and Swasti helped me patch it and wash it clean. The next day I baked an extra supply of honey cakes. They looked brown and tempting upon the tray as I went along the street, loudly calling my wares. At first no one seemed interested, and I became discouraged. I kept on, and later in the afternoon, as men became hungry, the cakes began to sell, and soon my tray was empty. Nananaid was well pleased with my success and gladly paid me my share. I was delighted to earn pennies. Megiddo had been right when he said a master appreciated good work from his slaves. That night, I was so excited over my success I could hardly sleep and tried to figure how much I could earn in a year and how many years would be required to buy my freedom. As I went forth with my tray of cakes every day, I soon found regular customers. One of these was none other than thy grandfather, Arid Gula. He was a rug merchant and sold to the housewives, going from one end of the city to the other, accompanied by a donkey loaded high with rugs and a black slave to tend it. He would buy 2 cakes for himself and 2 for his slave, always tarrying to talk with me while they ate them. Thy grandfather said something to me one day that I shall always remember. I like thy cakes, boy, but better still, I like the fine enterprise with which thou offerest them. Such spirit can carry thee far on the road to success. But how canst thou understand, Hayden Gula, what such words of encouragement could mean to a slave boy, lonesome in a great city, struggling with all he had in him to find a way out of his humiliation? As the months went by, I continued to add pennies to my purse. It began to have a comforting weight upon my belt. Work was proving to be my best friend, just as Megiddo had said. I was happy, but Swasti was worried. "Thy master, I fear to have him spend so much time at the gaming houses," she protested. I was overjoyed one day to meet my friend Megiddo upon the street. He was leading 3 donkeys loaded with vegetables to the market. "I am doing mighty well," he said. "My master does appreciate my good work, for now I am a foreman. See, he does trust the marketing to me. And also, he is sending for my family. Work is helping me to recover from my great trouble. Someday it will help me to buy my freedom and once more own a farm of my own." Time went on, and Mananaead became more and more anxious for me to return from selling. He would be waiting when I returned and would eagerly count and divide our money. He would also urge me to seek further markets and increase my sales. Often I went outside the city gates to solicit the overseers of the slaves building the walls. I hated to return to the disagreeable sights, but found the overseers liberal buyers. One day I was surprised to see Zabado waiting in line to fill his basket with bricks. He was gaunt and bent, and his back was covered with welts and sores from the whips of the overseers. I was sorry for him and handed him a cake which he crushed into his mouth like a hungry animal. Seeing the greedy look in his eyes, I ran before he could grab my tray. "Why dost thou work so hard?" Arid Gula said to me one day. "Almost the same question thou asked with me today, dost thou remember?" I told him what Megiddo had said about work and how it was proving to be my best friend. I showed him with pride my wallet of pennies and explained how I was saving them to buy my freedom. "When thou art free, what wilt thou do?" he inquired. "Then," I answered, "I intend to become a merchant." At that he confided in me, something I had never suspected. "Thou knowest not that I also am a slave. I am in partnership with my master." "Stop," demanded Hayden Gula. "I will not listen to lies defaming my grandfather. He was no slave." His eyes blazed in anger. Sharunada remained calm. "I honor him for rising above his misfortune and becoming a leading citizen of Damascus. Art thou his grandson, cast of the same mold? Art thou man enough to face true facts, or dost thou prefer to live under false illusions?" Hayden Gula straightened in his saddle. In a voice suppressed with deep emotion, he replied, "My grandfather was beloved by all. Countless were his good deeds. When the famine came, did not his gold buy grain in Egypt, and did not his caravan bring it to Damascus and distribute it to the people so none would starve? Now thou sayest he was but a despised slave in Babylon. Had he remained a slave in Babylon, that he might well have been despised. But when, through his own efforts, he became a great man in Damascus, the gods indeed condoned his misfortunes and honored him with their respect. Shalom-Nader replied. After telling me that he was a slave, Shalom-Nader continued, he explained how anxious he had been to earn his freedom. Now that he had enough money to buy this, he was much disturbed as to what he should do. He was no longer making good sales and feared to leave the support of his master. I protested his indecision. Cling no longer to thy master. Get once again the feeling of being a free man. Act like a free man and succeed like one. Decide what thou desirest to accomplish, and then work will aid thee to achieve it. He went on his way, saying he was glad I had shamed him for his cowardice. One day I went outside the gates again, and was surprised to find a great crowd gathering there. When I asked the man for an explanation, he replied, "Hast thou not heard? An escaped slave who murdered one of the king's guards has been brought to justice and will this day be flogged to death for his crime. Even the king himself is to be here." So dense was the crowd about the flogging post, I feared to go near lest my tray of honey cakes be upset. Therefore, I climbed up the unfinished wall to see over the heads of the people. I was fortunate in having a view of Nebuchadnezzar himself as he rode by in his golden chariot. Never had I beheld such grandeur, such robes and hangings of gold cloth and velvet. I could not see the flogging, though I could hear the shrieks of the poor slave. I wondered how one so noble as our handsome king could endure to see such suffering. Yet when I saw he was laughing and joking with his nobles, I knew he was cruel and understood why such inhuman tasks were demanded of the slaves building the walls. After the slave was dead, his body was hung upon a pole by a rope attached to his leg so all might see. As the crowd began to thin, I went close. On the hairy chest, I saw tattooed 2 entwined serpents. It was Pirate. The next time I met Arid Gula, he was a changed man. Full of enthusiasm, he greeted me. "Behold, the slave thou knewest is now a free man." There was magic in my words. Already my sales and my profits are increasing. My wife is overjoyed. She is a free woman, the niece of my master. She much desires that we move to a strange city where no man shall know I was once a slave. Thus our children shall be above reproach for their father's misfortune. Work has become my best helper. It has